Hello everyone, Xeno What If here. Bring in part 2 of What If the Transformers crash landed in Code Geass. Link in the description of the fanfiction of this What If. Listen here YouTube. I do not own anything and this is not a scam. Roll out. Innocent people were gunned down left and right all throughout the Shinjuku ghetto. It was nothing short of a massacre as Brittanian nightmare frames, primarily Sutherlands, laid waste to the already destroyed city. Men, women, and children, all dubbed 11s by the oppressive, borderline evil, Empire of Britannia, all lay dead and bleeding on the ground, no one was spared. 2 children, a boy and a girl, laid hidden in a ruined building as they clung to each other as they heard the gunfire outside. They both screamed as the wall in front of them exploded to reveal a Sutherland with its rifle trained on them, ready to gun them down. This is what you 11s deserve. The Brittanian pilot inside gloated almost sadistically as the children closed their eyes and waited for their inevitable end. Long live Britannia. However, right before he opened fire, a dark green SUV drove out from the side and rammed the Sutherland in the side and pushed right through a wall before it fell down and the SUV ran it over, crushing its head. This was the disguised Autobot known as Bulkhead. The dark green vehicle form drove through another wall and happened to run into another group of Sutherlands that immediately trained their guns on him. Scrap. Bulkhead cursed. Fortunately, a pair of blue lasers shot down some of the nightmare frames from the far left side as the vehicle forms of Optimus Prime and Ironhide, a red and blue semi-auto truck and black and red pickup truck respectively, drove in each with a pair of energon blasters on their vehicles' sides, blasting and ramming down the Sutherlands. Ordinarily, a simple car would have crashed if it rammed itself into a nightmare, but these were no ordinary cars. Cybertronian outer metal skin was far stronger and durable than any Earth-made metal. Thanks guys. Bulkhead told his teammates. Next time, think before you charge in. Ironhide scolded slightly. Hey, I'm a wrecker, it's what I do. Bulkhead replied. Enough, we need to focus on the situation. Optimus said as he drove off, with Bulkhead and Ironhide right behind him. As they drove, the trio of robots in disguise passed by several bodies of countless innocent people. Ironhide couldn't help but feel resentment in his spark. Damn wannabe Decepticons. I'm starting to understand why RC and the others wanted to get involved. Yeah, this is all kinds of cruel. Bulkhead agreed. What did these people do to deserve this? That is why we are here. Optimus told them. He saw all these dead bodies and in his spark he felt a great deal of despair. These were families, children, and Britannia stomped on them like insects. This was no different from Megatron when he plunged Cybertron into the Great War. We must find our teammates and any possible resistance so that we may push the Britannian forces back. RC, B, Cliff, do you guys read us? Bulkhead asked on the comms as they continued to drive. We read you, loud and clear. Cliffjumper responded before a crash was heard on the other side of the line. Woo. Take that you piece of scrap. We just arrived in Shinjuku, we're on the westward outer side of the ghetto and moving towards the center. Ironhide informed. Where are you guys? Cliff and I just passed on old train station near the south end. RC informed. We just recently spotted a Glasgow which is being piloted by a rebel and we're working to find it and see if we can locate any other resistance. Where is Bumblebee? Optimus asked. Don't know. Cliff responded. We lost track of him when the whole mess started. We tried to contact him, but no response. Optimus immediately contacted the ARC. Ratchet, do you have a lock on Bumblebee's signal? ARC, the bridge. As Fix-It was on communications, Ratchet worked on a console which projected a screen and a 2-dimensional map of the ghetto where he pinpointed the signals of each of his comrades. I have a lock, Ratchet told them. He's deep within the ghetto, close towards the center. I've tried to contact him but like Cliffjumper said, received no response. Communications seem to be functionally normal. Fix-It informed. Perhaps he's under some form of radio appliance. Compliance. Silence. Radio silence. Ironhide questioned. What he's afraid Britannia hacked us. Highly unlikely. Ratchet dismissed. Autobots, proceed towards Bumblebee's location. Optimus directed. We need to find him as soon as possible. Roger. All the Autobots said at the same time before ending communications for the moment. Why would Bumblebee not respond to any of our hails? Fix-It wondered. Could something be wrong with his communicator? Either that or he's found himself in a tight spot. Ratchet replied. I just hope he hasn't gotten himself into any trouble. Bumblebee couldn't even think of any sort of response, not only to the frequent hails of his teammates, or of the current situation as he was just wrapping his head around it. Here he was in an abandoned warehouse, with a Brittanian prince, presumed dead, who openly stated his hatred for his own nation. He wasn't too surprised though by that, prince or not, it wasn't hard to find a reason to hate Britannia. No, what really had Bumblebee silent was what the young prince just did. He simply looked at the soldiers and ordered them to kill themselves, which they did without any hesitation. Bumblebee's own optics even saw something glow in the boy's eye as he did it. Did he have some kind of power? Do other humans have this kind of power? More and more questions popped into his mind and he had no answers to any of them. Lelouch himself was still trying to wrap his mind around it as well. I don't understand, what is it you wanted me to do? He thought to himself as he looked at the body of the green-haired girl at his feet. Why did you give me this bizarre power? Before either Lelouch or Bumblebee could do anything, an explosion erupted from the entrance of the warehouse where a Sutherland rolled in. Scrap, Bumblebee thought. Valletta knew, the dark-skinned woman who piloted the Nightmare, activated its faxsphere sensor to see past all the dust where she saw all the bodies of not only the civilians but the Royal Guard soldiers as well. How could all these Royal Guards be dead? She questioned to herself. Her screen caught the image of the yellow and black car. The same car that ambushed Lord Jeremiah. She noticed the teenage boy standing behind it before her look hardened. Valletta accessed her Nightmare's speaker to address Lelouch directly. What happened here, boy? And why is a Brittanian student in a place like this? Is that your car? Lelouch didn't answer. Are you deaf? Answer me. She opened fire with warning shots around him. This isn't good. Bumblebee thought to himself. I could transform and beat it back, but if I did. Lelouch activated his Geass. I order you to come out, at once. Valletta looked in disbelief. Who the hell you think you are to order me? It didn't work. Bumblebee thought in confusion. Lelouch seemed to understand however as he deactivated his newly acquired power. I see, it only works with direct eye contact. He raised his hands and quickly made up a lie. My name is Alan Spacer. My father's a duke. Nobility. Valletta questioned. Just what is he? The confused Autobot wondered what he was doing. My ID card's in my breast pocket. After you confirm who I am, I'll request your protection. She deactivated her Nightmare and pulled out the ignition key before opening it up from the back of the cockpit. Lelouch smirked as he saw her lower herself down via the stirrup, but kept her pistol trained on him. Keep your hands up in the air, I'll take out your ID. She said as she began to walk towards him, but it was too late. Now then, hand your Nightmare over to me. The red sigil flew from his eye directly into hers. A pair of red rings formed in her eyes as she was under his control. She lowered her gun. Understood. The code number is XG21G2D4. She tossed him her ignition key. Got it. Lelouch caught it. Oh, he has to make eye contact for it to work, I get it. Whatever it is. Bumblebee seemed to get it. Lelouch was about to walk to the Nightmare when he turned around to face the car. Though he couldn't tell, Bumblebee was a bit nervous. Lelouch didn't know who the driver was, but he knew that they saw him use this new power, and how he openly said he was a Prince of Britannia. He probably couldn't use it on the driver, as they wouldn't willingly lower down the window so they could willingly allow themselves to be controlled. Hey, listen, the former prince began. I don't know who you are, and I hate to owe anything to anyone, but if you could do me a favor and not tell anyone what happened here. And you did save my life, so, thanks. Whoever you are. He walked towards the Sutherland and was about to use the stirrup to get in. By the way, that's a very nice car. He got into the Sutherland, started it up, and drove out of the warehouse. Bumblebee happened to follow close behind, not wanting to be around when the woman pilot snapped out of it. Valletta's vision cleared as she saw that no one was in front of her. The student was gone, as was the car. She looked around to find her Sutherland had vanished as well. What the? Bumblebee maintained a safe distance as he kept an eye on Lelouch in his Sutherland, driving to find some cover as he contacted his team. Bumblebee to Team Prime. Does anyone read me? This is Optimus, we read you, Bumblebee. Where in Cybertron's name are you? Ratchet exclaimed. "We picked up your signal and sent multiple hails, but you didn't respond to any of them." "Yeah, about that. Just found something you guys should hear," Bumblebee said as he replayed a recording over his radio and through the Autobot communications. "I Lelouch v Brittania command you. Now all of you, die." "Whoa, whoa, back up," Cliffjumper replied. "Lelouch v Brittania, as in a Prince of Brittania." "Yep," Bumblebee confirmed. "Just saw him. Is he with Clovis?" RC questioned. "Definitely not. Hold on a moment." Fixit stated is back at the Ark. He accessed the historical databanks and records the ship downloaded from Brittanian news reports long beforehand. It says that Prince Lelouch v Brittania, 17th heir to the Royal Brittanian throne, was killed 7 Earth years ago once Japan was invaded. Well, apparently those reports were slightly exaggerated, Cliffjumper stated. "Okay, so you found a Brittanian prince supposedly dead. What about it?" Ironhide questioned. "Well, for one thing, he's not with Brittania," Bumblebee replied. "In fact, he said he outright hates it." He played another recording. "Say, how should a Brittanian who detests his own country live his life?" "Well, it's kinda hard not to hate Brittania," Bulkhead said. "So what does all this have to do with us, B?" "That's not all," Bumblebee began. "This might sound a little crazy, but he's got some kind of power." "Power?" RC questioned. "What do you mean power?" Ratchet questioned as well. Optimus, who had remained silent throughout this exchange, spoke. "Bumblebee, what did you see?" "Well, I saw something in his eye glow. He ordered a bunch of soldiers to kill themselves and they did." "What?" Ironhide questioned. "Yeah, they even laughed as they did it," the Yellow Scout added. "Well, isn't that morbid?" Cliffjumper spoke. "He also stole a Sutherland the same way," Bumblebee continued. "He ordered a pilot to give him her nightmare, his eye glowed, and she gave it to him. And he did it just by looking at them." Ratchet questioned. "Yep. Bumblebee, where is he now?" Optimus asked. "I've got my eyes on him, but I maintain at least a few clicks away." "Alright, maintain watch. Perhaps we may found a possible ally," Optimus said. "An ally with a Brittanian prince?" RC questioned. "An ex-prince," Cliffjumper corrected. "But a Brittanian prince all the same," Ironhide stated. "There is still much we don't know," Optimus continued. "For now, Bumblebee continue to follow him. Autobots, converge on Bumblebee's location. If you find any resistance, report immediately. We may have to organize an attack if we are to succeed." All the Autobots, some reluctantly, agreed on this course of action. "So are we having a bad day?" Lloyd Asplund enthusiastically asked Suzaku as he regained consciousness. His shirt was gone and the upper half of his body was covered in bandages. Lloyd's assistant, Cecile Crumey, was by his side as well. "Looks like you missed a chance to go to heaven, Private Kururugi." "I did," Suzaku questioned as he groaned while trying to sit up from the bed of the ambulance he was in. "Where?" We're still in the Shinjuku ghetto," Lloyd responded. They were in one of the many ambulances close to Clovis mobile base with 2 Sutherlands guarding it. With Prince Clovis nearby, this is probably the safest place anywhere, Cecile informed as she handed Suzaku a broken pocket watch. "This is what saved your life, Mr. Suzaku. You're lucky it was under your protective suit because that was what deflected the bullet," Lloyd added. "Is it a keepsake?" Cecile asked. "Yeah, very." Suzaku took the watch and gave it a reminiscing look. "You 11s believe gods exist inside of everything, even objects, don't you?" Lloyd asked. "I guess this one is Lelouch." Suzaku stopped himself before he spoke again. "What's the latest on the situation?" "It looks like the poison gas was released," Lloyd answered. "Massive 11 casualties have been reported. They haven't caught the perpetrators yet," Cecile added. "They haven't, huh? Not yet," Suzaku thought to himself. He knew that was not poison gas that was stolen. Someone somewhere had obviously lied, and all these casualties, possibly the result of the conflict between the terrorists and soldiers. "Private Kururugi, how much experience do you have piloting a nightmare frame?" Lloyd asked with a knowing and eager smile. Needless to say, Suzaku did not expect a question like that. "Wah, but there's no way an 11 would be made a knight." Lloyd hadn't lost his smile as he held up a gold ignition key. "Well, supposing you could." Suzaku didn't know what to say. Was he seriously being offered a chance to pilot a nightmare? Though he was no fan of the destruction it was capable of, this could be the chance he needs to get back into Shinjuku and find Lelouch, maybe even that girl he was with. Before he even realized it, the key was in his hand. "Congratulations," Lloyd enthusiastically exclaimed. "The only nightmare of its kind awaits you. Once you take the controls of this big beauty, everything will change. You and your world. Whether you want it or not." Bulkhead soared in his vehicle mode as he rammed down a Sutherland and sent it rolling down a hill onto a tank, destroying them both. He drove away to avoid gunfire from another group of Sutherlands, however they were quickly blasted away by Ironhide. On the side of his vehicle mode, 2 large cannons came out from the doors and opened fire. Large balls of energon shot and exploded, blasting the Sutherlands to bits as he drove through the smoke. Optimus himself drove in his vehicle form directly toward a squad of at least 4 Sutherlands and 2 tanks. He turned and swerved his truck form as it began to spin in donuts before ramming and swerving into the enemy, knocking down and tripping up all the nightmares as well as bashing down all the tanks in the process. Another Sutherland was about to open fire on Optimus when a car's revving sound came from the side. It turned around just in time to see Cliffjumper's vehicle form crash through the wall of a destroyed building and tear the nightmare in half. "Ah yeah, mess with the Cliff, you get the horns." Cliffjumper, Optimus, Ironhide, and Bulkhead drove up to meet with their red comrade. "Where is RC?" She spotted that Glasgow and is driving up to meet with it and get to our rendezvous with B. Cliff replied. "Apparently it's also where a bunch of rebels are hiding out too." "Well, ain't that a coincidence?" Bulkhead noted. "Autobots move out. We need to meet up with Bumblebee, RC, and these rebels as soon as possible." "What about His Majesty?" Ironhide asked, referring to Lelouch. "Depending on his motives, we may very well work with him as well." Optimus replied. "But for now, let us keep this finding a secret until we know more." "Alright, let's go. Follow me." Cliffjumper made a donut before driving in the direction where RC would be with Optimus, Ironhide, and Bulkhead close behind. A Brittanian tank's turret just gunned down a group of civilians before a slash hearkened from Kallen's one-armed Glasgow tore through it. Inside, Kallen had tears of anguish in her eyes at the sight of this atrocity. "Those damn Brittanians," she cursed in anger and grief. "Kallen, can the Glasgow still move?" Ogi questioned on the other side, as he and a small group of rebels were barely holding their own near the center of the ghetto. "Don't worry Ogi. It's all right, I'll decoy them. Get the people out of here. The only ones that'll be captured are those of us in the resistance." "I know, but we're trapped. They got us completely surrounded." "Hang on. I'll try," and, before Kallen could finish, her Glasgow shook as she barely dodged any fire from a Sutherland heading from her left side. However, before it could fire again, RC in her vehicle form drove off the roof of a small building and rammed into the head of the Sutherland, completely decapitating it before skidding to a halt in front of Kallen's nightmare. "Follow me," RC exclaimed with the hologram of the motorcycle driver waving its arm for Kallen to follow her. "Wah, who are you?" Kallen asked, her voice projected out of the Glasgow. RC was somewhat surprised. From the sound of it, the pilot was actually a young girl, but that could wait. "Doesn't matter. Just come with me if you want to live." The blue living motorcycle drove eastward with Kallen following her in the Glasgow. She was actually quite impressed considering this person just took down a Sutherland with only a motorcycle. Maybe they might have a chance of surviving this after all. Ashford Academy. Shirley was in a locker room getting changed into her bathing suit, as she was part of the school swim club. A few of her friends were watching some TV on a laptop while she changed. However, she was surprised to hear her phone ring. Shinjuku Ghetto. Lelouch was still in his stolen Sutherland, with the disguised Bumblebee not far from him, and tried his best to remain hidden when Shirley answered his call. "Lulu, what in the world have you been doing? Where are you now? If you keep cutting class, you'll get held back. Are you near a TV?" Lelouch asked. "A TV? Sorry, but this is important." "Hang on." Shirley went over to her friends. "Hey, can I change the channel?" "Huh, to what?" "The news." Lelouch answered as he typed some data into the Nightmares database. "Is there anything about Shinjuku?" "News. Hang on." Shirley looked at the news report before answering. "There's nothing on. Traffic restrictions." Why is it restricted? I don't know, they're not saying. Shirley answered. I get it. Lelouch thought to himself. Once they finish everything off, they'll release news that favors the military. He took notice of some broken toys near the Sutherland's foot, particularly some chess pieces. Oh, you're gambling again, aren't you? Shirley accused. I've warned you before more than once how dangerous that is. Lelouch bore a humorous smile. Yep, you caught me. By the way, tell my little sister that I'm gonna be home late tonight. Thanks. He hung up. Back at Ashford, Shirley was quite miffed that Lulu had hung up on her yet again. Ooh, why does he always hang up on me like that? She tried to dial back. The number you have called is beyond service range. Oh darn it. Not this again. Lelouch had the map of the ghetto laid out on the screen in his Sutherland. And seeing as how a military officer piloted it, he had all the signals of all the Brittanian nightmares in the ghetto. He could find and locate any possible hostiles with this. They need to keep a lid on this information so it'll be hard for them to call in reinforcements. Lelouch spoke to himself, analyzing the situation. They'll have to make do with the pieces they have on the board, but I'm hemmed in here. It'll be tough to break through by myself. Gaining refuge carries its own risk too. He opened the cockpit to get down and gather those chess pieces. As he sat down from the stirrup he saw an explosion above and a flaming helicopter being brought down. I want payback for being dragged into your fight, but I can't do it alone. He spoke to himself. He picked up the chess pieces, but as he got back up, he happened to turn his head to the right as he looked in surprise to see the same yellow and black car from before. Ah bolts, he saw me. Bumblebee grimaced. Lelouch's look became serious as he remembered that the supposed driver not only knew his identity as the former Prince of Britannia, but also of his newfound power. Maybe, however, he could use that. Perhaps he found himself a possible ally. Hey, I'm surprised to see you're still here. He walked over and placed his hand on the hood. Barely any scratches, despite having taken some bullets no doubt. I'm guessing that's no ordinary car you're driving, is it? Bumblebee didn't answer. I'm also assuming that you're probably no fan of Britannia. Lelouch smirked a bit. Well, neither am I. That being said, perhaps we can help each other out. RC just witnessed Kallen take out a helicopter with a slash Harkin and smirked inward. She's good, she hummed to herself. However, a pair of Sutherlands, one of the pilots being Jeremiah, appeared behind them. It's our Glasgow friend. Oh, and even that cocky motorcycle from before, he mused as he opened fire. Scrap. RC cursed as she and Kallen drove off to avoid the bullet shots. She led Kallen down a narrow path with the Sutherlands close behind. RC to Optimus, I've found the Glasgow rebel, but we've got a pair of Sutherlands hot on our heels. Stand by, we're only a few clicks out. Optimus informed. At the same time, Kallen saw the Glasgow was running out of power. Just 30 minutes left. Suddenly a voice came in over her radio. The west entrance. She couldn't recognize the voice. Use the tracks to move toward the west entrance. Who's this? How do you know this code? Kallen questioned. What she didn't know was that it was Lelouch, using the communicator he got from the truck he accidentally fell into before, which was how he got dragged into this whole mess. That doesn't matter. If you want to win, you're just going to have to trust me. To win. At the same time, Bumblebee made contact with his teammates as well. RC. I made contact with Prince Lelouch. I need you to follow that Glasgow. He's giving her instructions. What? What are you? RC questioned. Trust me. Just do it. RC sighed inward, seeing no possible choice. She followed Kallen's Glasgow. The Red Nightmare drove toward a set of train tracks before hopping on top. RC followed suit as she drove up a makeshift ramp made from rubble and landed along the side of tracks, moving side by side with Kallen. Okay, what am I supposed to do now? Kallen asked as the Sutherlands were still chasing her and RC. Jeremiah, however, maintained his smirk. You pathetic 11s. If you simply run away, this hunt doesn't have much to offer in the way of sport. As the chase went on, a train was coming in from the other side of the tracks, right as Lelouch's voice came over on Kallen's radio. Since you trusted me, you're going to win. Jump onto the train. Gotcha. Kallen made her Glasgow jump onto the train as RC sped up and revved her motorcycle form so that it skipped up onto the train as well, right behind Kallen as Jeremiah's Sutherland began to halt the train by pushing it back. You think you can get away that way? If that's your plan. Jeremiah then contacted his comrade as he halted the train, right next to a ruined building on their left. You go after the Glasgow. Yes, my lord. However, right as his Sutherland began to jump, it got torn apart by a pair of Harkins coming from the building on the left, which pushed it back over the tracks. What the? Jeremiah saw the Sutherland from an opening, the one that just shot down his comrade. Shot by friendly fire? He questioned before speaking directly to the pilot over the speaker. What's your name and unit? We're after the one-armed Glass. The Sutherland opened fire with its rifle, causing Jeremiah's own nightmare to back up as he looked in shock. Oh my god. A terrorist. Crash. Asterisk. Jeremiah couldn't react in time as Bumblebee's vehicle form burst through the same building, driving at high speeds and shooting out like a missile. He rammed right into the Sutherland's side and completely tore through its legs as he landed hard on the tracks and halted, facing the Brittanian. Jeremiah recognized the car that had knocked him down before, and it made him quite angry. You son of a. He was about to shoot his rifle at Bumblebee when he was quickly rammed from behind, courtesy of RC in her own vehicle form. It knocked the Sutherland back and Kallen was close behind ready to finish it. Jeremiah knew he couldn't stop them, so he activated his cockpit's ejector and bailed out at the last minute as Kallen's Glasgow got off the train. You saved me. She breathed in relief, speaking to the voice over the radio. But how did you get a hold of a Sutherland? However, she was surprised to find that he was gone. Where did? She gasped as she only now just noticed the yellow and black car. RC rode up towards Bumblebee. Thanks for the assist, B. So, was that His Royal Highness? Yep. Bumblebee confirmed. And he is no fan of Britannia. Hey you. Kallen's voice came over the Glasgow as she rode it close towards them. She spoke to the supposed driver of the car. That's 2 I owe you, thanks. Kallen. Coming up from behind were Ogi and a small group of armed rebels. What the hell was that radio message earlier? What? He contacted you too? Yep, and Yoshi and his group ought to be here soon. Ogi answered. He looked past Kallen and looked in surprise to see several vehicles approaching them. Cliffjumper, Ironhide, Bulkhead, and Optimus joined Bumblebee and RC as they maintained their vehicular cover, all of which were now present on the train tracks. Hey guys. Glad to see you're alright. Bulkhead spoke to the duo. That makes 2 of us, RC replied. Well, looks like we found some rebels. Cliffjump noted. Did you guys do this? Nah, that was our little prince back from the dead. Bumblebee communicated in bleeps, while also admitting it was good to speak like that so none of the present rebels could understand him. Better find their radio frequency, cause we got company right now. Ironhide nodded as Ogi and his group came up to the vehicle forms of the Autobots. Hey you guys. Ogi said. Was that radio message one of you? Ogi. Kallen spoke through her Glasgow speaker. That yellow and black car, it was the one I mentioned before. And it just tore a Sutherland completely in half. Shit, really? One rebel, with short spiky red hair questioned in disbelief. Who are you? Ogi questioned towards them. RC rode up and spoke. We don't exist, she quickly said. That's all you need to know. We'll help you bring down Britannia, but that's it. You won't see us again after that. What do you mean? Ogi asked, talking to what he thought was the woman driving the blue motorcycle. However, a voice spoke over his radio. Are you in charge? This was the voice of Lelouch. Yeah, I present to you the cargo in that train over there. They're tools for your victory. If you want to win, then follow my orders. Meanwhile, Optimus contacted Ark over the comms so no one could hear him speak. Ratchet, fix it, we have managed to locate the rebels. Prince Lelouch appears to be aiding us as well as. What? Optimus, are you certain of this? Ratchet questioned. I am. The Autobot leader confirmed. Fix it, I'll need you to connect our communication lines to the rebels as well as Lelouch, who is no doubt using the same frequency. I'm on it. Fix it then accessed the communications systems as he began to sync the Autobot communication signals with that of the rebels. Optimus, we still little to nothing of Lelouch's story. Ratchet began. We may say he's against Britannia at the moment, but that could change. And what's with this power of his that Bumblebee spoke of? I agree there are many unanswered questions. Optimus replied. However, if we are to have any hope of saving those living within the ghetto, then communication is paramount. Anything else can wait for the moment. Ratchet knew what was important right now, protecting the people from Brittania. Maybe they can get some answers from Lelouch himself later, but that may involve revealing themselves to the prince, which he was not comfortable with. But they can cross that bridge when they get to it, first things first. It's done. Fix-It announced. Communication lines are cemented, fermented, connected. Shinjuku. Ogi and his rebels opened the cargo doors for all the train cars, and they could not contain their surprise. There were Sutherlands, more than a dozen total. There's more in here too. Here too. Amazing. Maybe we should give this guy a chance. Kallen was still in shock. All of this, but how? Ogi was about as shocked as Kallen. Are you the leader of this resistance? A new voice spoke over the radio, one deeper and more commanding than anything he heard before, the voice of Optimus Prime. Yeah, I am, he answered. This was a new voice, definitely not the person who stole the Sutherland and helped Kallen. A look of realization crossed his face. Wait, are you in one of those cars or trucks? He turned towards the group of vehicles that drove up towards the train. You could say that. The voice of Cliffjumper spoke up. Who are you? Are you possibly with the Japan Liberation Front? Ogi asked. No, we're not. Bulkhead's voice answered. You could say we're from out of town. Listen up, soldiers. Ironhide's voice spoke through all of the rebel radios, including the one Lelouch was using. We're syncing our communications with yours to better coordinate. We're gonna help you send these Brittanian punks packing. Ogi shared concerned expressions with his comrades in arms. Though this was a surprise to them, they could use all the help they could get right now. Considering that now they have Sutherlands, maybe the odds of them whining had just increased. Woman in the Glasgow. Lelouch's voice spoke up. Why, yes. Kallen answered. Stay where you are, your unit is gonna run decoy. Got it. Understood. Energy filler status. About 15 minutes worth. Then recharge it. In 10 minutes, I'll contact you with your next instructions. Lelouch stayed in his Sutherland as he hid in ruined building, near the top floor. He turned off the radio and sighed a bit. This is wearing me out. He spoke to himself. Regardless, I'll need determination to succeed. After all, I'm betting my life in this game. He held the Black King chess piece in his hand when a voice spoke over the radio he had. Are you Lelouch v Britannia, the 17th heir to the Royal Brittanian Imperial throne, presumed deceased? The voice of Optimus Prime questioned. Lelouch could not contain his surprise. How did? He tried to regain his composure. Are you the one driving that yellow car? No, I am a comrade of his. Optimus answered. I assure you, I have no intention of informing anyone else of your identity, for at the moment I am your ally. My comrades and I will help you to push Britannia back, but once this is over, perhaps we could have a discussion. Lelouch thought for a moment. So whoever this person was, he knew his identity, and more than likely also knows about his mysterious power. This could complicate things, but at the same time, maybe he may have found some more allies. However, right now he had to focus on simply making out of this mess alive, so right now he'll accept his help. Very well, but if you could keep this a secret? Lelouch asked. Understood. Contact us when you are ready to begin the operation. But before we begin, we need you to provide us with the codes of your Sutherland so we can track the Brittanian nightmares within the ghetto. Optimus requested. Alright, the code is XG21G2D4. I have it. We'll be ready to begin whenever you are. Optimus cut off communications for the moment. Prince Clovis Mobile Base. General Bartley and his staff were reporting the situation to their prince. The terrorists are mixed among the 11 populace and they're mounting a fairly minor resistance against us. But they pose little threat to our vastly superior army. We know that. Moving on. Clovis urged. Understood, Your Highness. General Bartley replied. The gas capsules will be what the public thinks. Clovis interrupted. Yes, we'll keep searching for her. The general told him. Clovis was in a tight spot, but he still could get out of this unscathed if he played the right cards. Either way, I want her captured dead or alive. Meanwhile, other resistance fighters have managed to gather together with Ogi and his band of rebels, along with the disguised Autobots. Several of them had already taken their newly acquired Sutherlands and were ready to mount an assault. Ratchet, are we ready or what? Ironhide asked. Back on the Ark, Ratchet had just put in the codes into the Ark's database. The screen in front of him lit up and he had the signals of all the Brittanian nightmares and could identify their locations. "We have their locations and are ready to proceed," Ratchet responded. "Fix It, how are communications?" "Still steady," Fix It replied. "Hey, are you sure about this?" A rebel soldier named Tamaki asked Ogi as he was in his Sutherland. "They've all had their IFFs removed, what if it's a trap? The other side has total advantage in this war." Ogi spoke through his Sutherland speakers. "They don't need to set any traps. Are you ready to begin?" Optimus spoke over the radio to Ogi. "Yeah, we're ready. But are you sure you don't want to use a Sutherland yourself? You guys may be good drivers, but I don't think a few cars and trucks are gonna last long in this. We will be fine. You will need those nightmares more than we will." Ogi felt a bit unsure, but there was little time to argue. "Okay, but who are you? At least tell us your name." "I am sorry but I cannot," Optimus replied. "If you wish to save the lives of those within the ghetto, then we need to work together, that is all you need to know." He sighed. "All right." Optimus' semi-auto truck vehicle mode laid hidden under a ruined building as he contacted Lelouch over the radio. "We are ready to begin." "All right, if Q1 and A3 are on schedule, then enemy Sutherlands should reach them in 23 seconds. Shoot them through the wall." Tamaki looked annoyed. He's out of his mind. "Hey, we're the ones risking our lives as bait here." RC spoke over the radio in a tone that caused Tamaki to wince. "But if you wanna be bait then by all means. Everyone, double check your weapons." Ogi ordered his rebels. "What? Are you serious?" Tamaki questioned. "Just shut up and move if you want to live," RC shouted at him. Tamaki winced. Okay, we're moving," he said in a tone like he were a child being scolded by his mother. RC's vehicle form and Kallen's Glasgow came to a stop just under an enemy helicopter. "We're in position now," RC contacted. "Enemy spotted at point F31. A staff officer informed Clovis as the screen in front illustrated the battle via a radar screen. "A faint EH. How pedestrian," Clovis mused. "Tell Laszlo squad to go straight in," Bartley ordered. "Have UG and Valerie strike from the rear. 3, 2, 1, fire." Ogi ordered as his Nightmare squad opened fire on the wall, which tore through the two Nightmares coming in from the rear. "What?" A Brittanian soldier panicked before his Nightmare exploded. A squad of 4 Nightmares was about to go straight towards Kallen and RC, when out of the rubble next to them, Optimus' vehicle form appeared as he rammed all 4 of them at once. He ran into them as if they were a straight line, piling on top of each other as he rode over them and ran them over, crushing the Nightmares' heads underneath his wheels. All 6 signals were lost. Sir Eugene, Sir Valerie, and Laszlo squad, all lost. Clovis lost his smirk. "An ambush," Lelouch chuckled. "An ID signal can be a double-edged sword," he said to himself as he held a Black Knight piece in his hand. "Besides, if these people follow the orders I issue, my task at hand is sure to be completed." That ambush worked almost flawlessly. Fix It said in surprise. "We have access to their Nightmares' signals, so of course we can pinpoint their locations," Ratchet said before accessing his communications. "Bulkhead, Cliffjumper, you have 3 Nightmares coming in 2 clicks from your current position." "Got it, Doc Bot," Cliffjumper responded. Bulkhead drove off the roof and let gravity take his truck body down as it crashed hard onto 2 Sutherlands, crushing them both, while Cliffjumper drove out from a tunnel and rammed the Sutherland's feet to knock it down. Lelouch saw this from his Sutherland screen and looked amused. So these guys know what they're doing. Impressive. He accessed the communications again. P1, P4, P7, follow the black truck as it lures the enemy into position. Then fire your /Harkins toward 3 o'clock. You heard M. Do what the voice says. Ogi ordered his squad. Damn, what else does he want us to do? Tamaki complained as he got into his Nightmare. Get ready. I got M right behind me. Ironhide exclaimed through the radio. The black and red truck drove at high speeds as a group of Sutherlands chased him and fired their rifles at him. He avoided all the shots and got into position. Fire. Now. Ironhide shouted as the friendly Sutherlands shot their /Harkins and tore apart the Brittanian Nightmares. Bartley was beginning to look nervous, as 3 more signals were lost. The enemy is moving towards G28. An officer informed. Send Laszlo squad. I mean Globe squad. Bartley ordered. Clovis' attention was certainly caught now. This means, terrorists have our military weaponry. Kallen used her /Harkin to pull her Glasgow onto a rooftop where she punched down a Sutherland. RC drove fast as she lured two Sutherlands right where she needed them to be. Bumblebee's side doors opened as his energon blasters shot through the wall in front of him and quickly gunned down the two nightmares. Sir Globe has been ejected. His entire unit has been shot down. Change our codes. They're intercepting our transmissions. Bartley ordered. We already have, sir. 4 times. Do it again. Clovis stood up, his face raw with anger, but his eyes radiant fear. This failure is unacceptable. Bartley nervously turned toward his prince. Forgive me. A screen popped up on the window in front of them where they saw the face of Lloyd Asplund, with an ever-present smile on his face. Good afternoon. Wah, what is it? We're in the middle of an operation. Bartley exclaimed. I'd say it's time to deploy a certain special weapon I've developed, Lloyd proposed. We've no time for this right now. Bulkhead rammed a tank and sent it crashing into a building. R2. Fire Harkin. Lelouch moved the Black Rook piece up. A /Harkin shot down a helicopter. 06. Enemy unit 20 meters ahead. The Prince moved up the Black Bishop piece. Optimus drove through the pillars of a small building quickly, which destabilized the structure and crushed the entire unit of Sutherlands nearby as Optimus drove out of the dust. En group, you'll continue your advance. Lelouch held the Black Knight piece. Bumblebee, RC, and Cliffjumper led the charge as they sped right toward a group of enemy nightmares while friendly Sutherlands shot toward the enemy from behind. You bloody 11s. One Brittanian pilot shouted as he and his squad tried to shoot back, but the disguised Autobots had already rammed into the nightmares, causing them to lose their balance as they were quickly gunned down. More signals were lost. We just lost the entire Bradlow squad. Clovis walked to the group of his staff officers. So do it. We'll have to bring up Quincy squad. My lord, that will break the encirclement. Bartley warned. Lelouch's smile has yet to vanish. Now then, the enemy has only 5 options. Optimus Prime had similar thoughts as well. They can either call in a full retreat, try to gather what remaining forces they have, fall back and form a defensive line around Clovis, continue to press onward as they are now, or send out some of the units guarding Clovis to aid their offensive forces. Reinforce the breach with some of the units guarding me. Clovis ordered. All we know for certain is that enemy forces are here. The nightmares and tanks rolled out further into the ghetto. Jeremiah, who was trying to make his way back to Clovis mobile base, saw this and looked confused. Who ordered them to break formation? Ratchet saw the enemy's movement. Optimus, more forces have broken off from Clovis guard. They're trying to encircle you and the rebels. Understood. All units move underground. Immediately. Lelouch saw his own makeshift army moving as Clovis forces tried to encircle them, not to mention he also heard Optimus' instructions. Underground him. Not a bad idea. He contacted his allies again. 06, do you have an area map? I have a map of the entire ghetto. Ratchet's voice answered for Optimus. I'll relay the information to our allies. Good. Clovis smirked triumphantly, thinking he was about to win. Alright, send out Bertz and the others too. Concentrate our forces there. Surround them. He saw on the radar all his forces coming in on a single red dot. The enemy's main force is that center dot. Finish every one of them off. Pretty much every remaining Brittanian Sutherland proceeded toward that location with the hope to completely overwhelm the enemy. However, once they got there, they were surprised to see there was nothing there. What? Where's the enemy? Clovis demanded as the dot on the radar vanished. All the resistance nightmares, including the Glasgow, as well as the vehicle forms of the 6 Autobots, all moved within the large tunnels underground as they all gathered together to form a perfect circle and aimed toward a central point. Is everyone in position? Optimus asked. Everyone's ready. Kallen responded. All the nightmares readied their /Harkins as energon blasters opened up along the sides or tops of the Autobots' vehicle forms. Get ready, they're closing in. Lelouch stated. Wait, 3, 2, 1, fire. /Harkins and energon blasts were all shot and concentrated on a single point. The force was so great that it caused the ground above to completely collapse and take out all the nightmares with them. Fortunately all the Autobots and rebel fighters were far enough away not to get caught up in it themselves. With this, I call check. Lelouch said as he moved his Black King piece. It wasn't long before he burst into a triumphant laugh. Yes, it worked. I can do it. I can defeat Brittania. Optimus looked at the Ruble with both surprise and seriousness. He was able to counter all of Britannia's moves and provide a strategy that not only neutralized all enemy forces, but prevented any of his own soldiers from receiving casualties. His strategic thinking is most impressive. Perhaps, if we learn more about him, he may be a valuable ally. Clovis couldn't believe his eyes as he instinctively backed up. Almost every single one of his nightmares was lost. His eyes shook as fear was written all over his face. Who in the hell am I up against? What if he's even better than Toto? Lloyd. Yes, Your Highness. He mused, his smiling face still on the screen in front of the prince. Can it win? Will your toy beat them? Lloyd's smile was still present, but his eyes were radiant with seriousness and ecstasy. My lord, please be so kind as to call it Lancelot. Z01 Lancelot now activating. Lancelot activating. Releasing hatch. Z01 Lancelot standby for activation. Pilot interface initiated. Suzaku had just now put on the white and black pilot suit for the nightmare he'd be piloting soon as it condensed and fit itself around his body. Did you read the manual? Cecile asked on his communicator. Pretty much. Suzaku answered as he zipped up his suit. Well done. Cecile congratulated. You scored at the top of the class at the simulator. Hey look, about what you told me earlier. Suzaku asked as he began to walk outside towards the nightmare covered in a black tarp. Huh. Oh, it could be, but the possibility is nearly zero. But that means there's still a chance, right? Suzaku insisted as he stood in front of the covered nightmare. Yes, I'm afraid that's true. Even so, you're not to do anything reckless. The new system is not outfitted with an ejection mechanism. Okay, I understand, Miss Cecile. Suzaku said. His eyes soon widened as the tarp fell off and he saw the Lancelot in its full glory. That's it, he breathed in an amazed tone of voice. Yes, the advanced weapon developed by us in the Advanced Special Envoy Engineering Corps, Lancelot. The world's first 7th generation nightmare frame. This nightmare was large, slightly bigger than any Sutherland. It also had a much more humanoid appearance as it appeared like a knight covered in white and gold armor. It even had a head with its own set of green eyes. Needless to say, Suzaku was amazed. Well, if you're ready Suzaku, shall we proceed with the initial startup? Lloyd proposed, ready to see his beauty in battle for the first time. With that being said, Suzaku quickly got into the cockpit of the Lancelot as they began to start up its systems. Initial startup, now proceeding from phase 20. Equipping energy filler. Confirm restart, energy filler now at full output. 30 seconds to reach critical voltage. Core luminous, shifting phase. Initiating Devicker setup. Confirming entry of Devicker into Z01. Mission control ID registration confirmed. Suzaku put the ignition key in as the Lancelot began to fully activate. Confirm man-machine interface engage. He gripped the controls. Lloyd smiled, as everything seemed to check out. So far it's going per the data. The ambulances cleared out of the way as Suzaku inputted the data as the Lancelot was now turned on. It took a stance as though it were a professional track runner ready to go at the sound of the gun. Lancelot, activate ME boost. Suzaku stated as the Sakuradite or Energon activated the system complete. Lancelot, launch. With a zoom, the Lancelot shot out like a speeding bullet. The wheels on its feet allowed it to move faster than any other nightmare frame of the previous generation. The after effects were enough to knock down Lloyd, Cecile, and all their co-workers. Lloyd couldn't help but laugh. Running right out of the gate. Suzaku could not believe it. This nightmare, it felt much more different than he had expected. Cooler than the manual. With this, he winced as he held the injury on his side. Tamaki spotted something on his screen. Huh, what is that? He didn't have time to react as the Lancelot zoomed in and decapitated his Sutherland with the swipe of his hand. RC rode up next to Optimus as they drove on the streets. We've taken down pretty much every nightmare in the whole ghetto. RC stated. And much of this came from His Royal Highness. Yes, Lelouch's strategy was quite impressive. Optimus replied. Wait, Optimus, are you actually considering bringing him on this? RC questioned. Perhaps. The Autobot leader began. If he truly stands against Britannia, his own strategic thinking as well as his knowledge of their inner workings could indeed aid us. He may be against Britannia, but what about the Decepticons? RC asked. Optimus wasn't quite sure how to respond to that is until he heard a communications. This is B Group, reporting enemy presence. More nightmares. RC wondered. Lelouch's voice responded over the communications. Status. Everyone ejected, but they took out 4 units in nothing flat. Enemy numbers. Lelouch asked. Just 1. I think it's a new model. I've never seen anything like it. Ah. That caught the 2 Autobots by surprise. A new model. RC questioned. Ratchet, a new nightmare has entered the field. Optimus contacted the Ark. Can you find its signal? Negative. Ratchet replied as he looked on the screen. Whatever it is, it's not using the same ID signal as all the Sutherlands. But I can pinpoint its possible location from the Resistance's nightmares that were destroyed. I have the location. Fix-It pulled up his own map. Bulkhead and Cliffjumper, you two appear to be the closest Autobots. Can you find out what it is? We're on our way. Bulkhead reported. A Resistance Sutherland had just been destroyed, its pilot ejected, as the Lancelot stood firm. Fracture sensors opened up on its breastplate briefly. Bulkhead and Cliffjumper saw the white nightmare as they drove onto the street. The red-disguised Autobot whistled. That's one nice-looking suit. It's definitely not a Sutherland. Bulkhead noted. 2 Resistance Sutherlands immediately opened fire. Bastard. They fired with their rifles, but the Lancelot lifted its right arm and an energy shield deflected the bullets. Did that thing just reflect bullets? Cliff questioned in surprise. The Lancelot shot at a speed equivalent to that of a race car and decapitated both nightmares with just hand swipes. Holy scrap. That was fast. Bulkhead exclaimed in shock. Ratchet, I'm sending you a visual. A visual image, taken by Bulkhead's optics, appeared on the screen onboard the Ark's bridge where Ratchet and Fix-It got a good look at the Lancelot. What is that? Fix-It asked. His tone indicated he was more than a little intimidated. I don't know. But it could spell trouble. Ratchet stated, his eyes radiant with worry. I've got a visual. Ironhide sounded. It's moving faster than a rocket. Whoa. That thing just tore through a squad like it was nothing. Optimus and RC heard this as well. Ironhide, what is your status? His leader asked. I'm fine. It shot right past me like I wasn't even there. Because we're robots in disguise. RC realized. So long as we're in vehicle form, it'll only target nightmares. So yeah, we're safe, but what about all the rebels? Cliff asked. Hang on. I see it. I'll try and tail it. Bumblebee reported. Bumblebee wait. Optimus stated. Do not do anything reckless. Maintain visual but only from behind. Do not engage this nightmare unless absolutely necessary. I understand. Lelouch's frustration had grown as half of his pieces had already been taken out. But was surprised to hear Optimus' voice through the radio. All units. A new nightmare has entered the battle. You are not to engage at any circumstances. All units are to fall back immediately. Fall back? Lelouch questioned. I have uploaded a rendezvous point where we can reorganize and plan a counterattack. Optimus continued to inform as a dot appeared on Lelouch's screen. Report there as soon as possible. If you spot a white nightmare, do not engage it. Eject immediately. Lelouch was more than a little surprised. What happened? Something I didn't foresee. Pretty much every Resistance Sutherland was now falling back, save for 2 that tried to hold back the Lancelot. The white nightmare shot a slash Harken from its wrist to decapitate on Sutherland as the other tried to shoot at it. The Lancelot punched the ground and launched another slash Harken from its wrist to propel itself into the air. Damn it! The Resistance pilot cursed as it tried to shoot at him. But the Lancelot had already come down with an axe kick on the side. The pilot ejected as soon as he could. Yes, I can do this. Suzaku stated. With Lancelot, I can stop all this fighting at once. Bumblebee meanwhile looked in shock as he held back but still saw the Lancelot as it kept going. That thing, it moves. Like a Decepticon. Clovis saw the status from his mobile base. Though he was glad that the Resistance was being pushed back, he also cringed inward. For heaven's sake. Now I'll owe my older brother a debt I don't mean to incur. It's for the best though. Despite several resistance Sutherlands trying their best to retreat, they still somehow found themselves against the Lancelot as it quickly made work of them. It tore the nightmares apart, and yet Suzaku tried his best to avoid any fatal shots and kill someone. He was only disarming them. He may have unknowingly passed by some Autobots, but as they maintained vehicular cover, Suzaku merely dismissed them as abandoned vehicles. While most of them, including Optimus, had already helped the remaining resistance fighters get to their rendezvous point, Bumblebee still continued to tail the Lancelot, while maintain a safe distance. Lloyd and Cecile continued to watch Suzaku's progress through the Lancelot's outer camera as well as the data they were receiving from Suzaku himself. These readings are even higher than predicted. Cecile exclaimed in surprise. Lloyd pushed up the brim of his glasses. It's because our pilot is taking his job very seriously. Suzaku grimaced as he held his injury, but he pushed himself to keep going. If I can stop all of the nightmares, then this battle is over. No matter what, I've got to save Lelouch and that girl. His Faxsphere system spotted something. The Lancelot's screens zoomed in near the top of an abandoned building. The systems locked onto a Sutherland that was hiding at the top, the one piloted by Lelouch. RC drove down an alleyway where she ran into Bumblebee, still maintain a fair distance from the White Nightmare, but the moment she turned she saw it. Whoa, that's what's causing all the trouble? She questioned in surprise. Yep, that's it, Bumblebee bleeped back in response. However, they looked in surprise to see it gunning toward a certain building. Wait, oh no, it's going for Lelouch. Scrap. RC cursed as she and Bumblebee zoomed after it as fast as they could. Lelouch could only look in shock as a Harken gripped onto the ceiling of his hiding spot. It wasn't long before the Lancelot pulled itself up and gunned straight for him. He instinctively used his Sutherland to block its strike. You mean this thing's what's ruining my plan? The Sutherland struggled against the Lancelot's superior strength. Are you the guy that's in command? Suzaku questioned, though his voice wasn't projected through any speakers. Lelouch tried to push back as hard as he could. Nothing more than a pilot, how dare he? However, the floor gave way underneath both nightmares as they fell several stories through the ruined building. Lelouch grimaced and knew he had to leave. No choice, I gotta get out of here. He looked in further shock to see the Lancelot coming down toward him with a spinning kick. He tried to block it with the Sutherland's arm, but he was still quickly knocked down. The Lancelot was about to take him out of commission with a wrist-mounted Harken when Kallen's Glasgow came in for a punch, which the Lancelot quickly caught. Hey, I'm returning the favor, Kallen shouted toward Lelouch over the radio. She launched a Harken at the enemy, but the Lancelot caught it with its other hand and quickly crushed it while also crushing the Glasgow's arm. I can't hold it, she struggled. She wouldn't have to struggle much longer as RC's motorcycle mode came in from a ruined floor and slammed into the back of the Lancelot's head, taking Suzaku by surprise. Go! Run! RC shouted to Kallen. The red-haired girl looked in surprise for a split second before pulling the Glasgow's ejection seat and bailing. RC then skidded to a halt and faced the Lancelot directly. Suzaku's eyes widened in shock as he saw this. She's going up against a nightmare with just a motorcycle, he said to himself, thinking it was a woman driving it as he saw the hologram of the driver. RC revved up before driving right toward the Lancelot. Suzaku tried to grab her, but moved slowly as he was worried he could kill the driver, but it was what RC needed to swerve under it and begin spinning in donuts amongst the debris, creating a smokescreen to blind the Lancelot. Lelouch drove his Sutherland out of the dust. I must remember that, he thought to himself. The most vital element in battle is the human one. He looked down to see the yellow and black car from before, flashing his lights at Lelouch before turning around and driving off, motioning for the former prince to follow him, which he did. That's 2 I owe you, he muttered to himself as he followed Bumblebee. RC continued to spin circles and create plenty of dust around Suzaku. He tried to stir the Lancelot, but all this movement blinded him greatly. What's going on? I can't see. As she continued to swerve, she saw Bumblebee and Lelouch moving away and were at a reasonable distance. Now it was her turn to leave. She drove off in the direction that Kallen ejected. The Lancelot waved its arms a few times to clear out the dust. Suzaku had found that everyone was gone. Where did they go? He turned on his Faxsphere sensors again to pick up the enemy's location where he spotted the Sutherland from before as well as a yellow and black car moving away. Oh no you don't. Kallen had kicked open the hatch of her escape pod as she tried to stand up and looked around at where she landed. Before her mind could wrap around what just happened, RC had sped in front of her. Get on. Not losing a chance to escape, she quickly mounted the motorcycle and grabbed the seat as RC drove off. What the hell was that thing? She questioned, referring to the nightmare. I don't know, but right now we need to get somewhere safe. Bumblebee and Lelouch continued to drive down the road. However, it wasn't long before the Sutherland's radar picked up something coming toward them. It was the Lancelot. You're kidding me. It's already caught up to us. Bumblebee thought in surprise. Lelouch turned the Sutherland back and opened fire with its rifle, but the Sutherland was quick enough to avoid all the bullets. Lelouch tried to shoot some of the rubble from the buildings to block its path, but Suzaku maneuvered the Lancelot and it was able to avoid everything that fell without even slowing down. That damn monster's unstoppable, Lelouch exclaimed. Bumblebee realized the situation they were in. This thing was obviously with Brittania. If it took down the Sutherland and found out about Lelouch, granted he was a prince, but still to take a stand against his own empire, it could put him in considerable danger. Bumblebee was a little more surprised that he was thinking of Lelouch's safety, but then again, he was an Autobot and the safety of the weak and helpless was his first priority. That thing may stand up against nightmares, but what about an Autobot? He stopped and turned around before gunning straight for the Lancelot. Lelouch was beyond surprised. What are you doing? He stopped the Sutherland and watched as the car go straight for the enemy nightmare. This movement shocked Suzaku as well. Is he trying to ram me? Maybe if I go around him. But Bumblebee had already kicked in maximum overdrive. Sorry Optimus, but I've got no choice here. He did the one thing that no one expected, he transformed. Bumblebee took his natural Cybertronian form and using the momentum from the speed he gathered in his vehicle form, he reeled back a fist before delivering a punch straight to the Lancelot's face. It was powerful enough to send the White Nightmare flying back quite a distance and crashing through some of the rubble previously brought down. Wah! What the hell? Lelouch practically screamed, his eyes ready to pop out of their sockets. Cecile shot right up out of her chair and Lloyd completely lost his composure, doubling back, as they saw the exact same thing from the Lancelot's camera systems. Did that car just transform into a nightmare? Cecile exclaimed in shock. Lloyd Asplund, for the first time in his life, was completely speechless. Suzaku's look couldn't be described with mere words as the dust cleared and he got a good look at the Autobot scout. His eyes were so wide they looked like dinner plates with his mouth in the form of a perfect O. Bumblebee, seeing how he made his enemy speechless, pressed his advantage as he charged right at the Lancelot and laid another punch across its face before delivering a roundhouse to knock it further back. Suzaku managed to stabilize himself, but his look of surprise did not fade when Bumblebee's wrists converted into his energon blasters which he opened fire immediately onto the Lancelot. The energy blasts hit the Lancelot, causing it to stumble back before Suzaku activated its shield to block the attack. He tried to regain his composure. Is that what is? He shook his head. Whatever it is, it could spell trouble. I have to take it down. He shot the Lancelot directly at Bumblebee, but he rolled out of the way to avoid the punch before opening fire again on the Lancelot's side. Lelouch used this opportunity to drive his Sutherland into an opening within a ruined building, but he stopped and found his eyes traced solely on the battle taking place in front of him. Is that some sort of specialized nightmare? No, it's far too maneuverable. He thought as he saw Bumblebee move swiftly under the Lancelot's swing to deliver an uppercut and hook to the White Nightmare's body which retaliated with a kick to Bumblebee's chest to knock him back. Lelouch got a good look at the Autobot's face as he charged back at the enemy. That's definitely not a nightmare. It has a face, its own eyes move and shift with the battle. That thing, it's alive. The Lancelot fired a slash harken from its wrist, which Bumblebee caught and managed to crush in his hand before running directly at the Lancelot and jumping to deliver a kick right at its face, causing it to stumble back. But when Bumblebee tried to shoot at it again with his energon blasters, it leapt into the air to deliver a spinning kick, which Bumblebee tried to block with both his arms but still knocked him down all the same. Fortunately, the Autobot rolled out of the way as the Lancelot tried to swing its hand to possibly cut off his head, and it impacted the ground. As he got up, Bumblebee tackled the Lancelot and rammed it into the wall of a ruined building before grabbing the Lancelot by the back of its head and smashing it repeatedly into the wall. Suzaku grunted until he had enough and shoved both the Lancelot's arms into the wall and activated both his /Harken to knock him and Bumblebee back, but this caused a rift and tear in the building before a piece on an upper floor gave way. Lelouch, Suzaku, and Bumblebee's attention was caught by a scream as they saw a woman holding a baby falling from the building that was recently damaged. Bumblebee's optics widened before he ran and shoved the Lancelot out of the way, disregarding the battle immediately. Suzaku's eyes also widened as he feared the worst. "No, don't you try," and he looked in shock to see Bumblebee leap into the air, reach out his hand and catch both the mother and her child in the palm of his, and before landing on the ground on his knees in his other hand, still keeping the mother and her child close and safe. "It just saved them," Suzaku stuttered in surprise. Lelouch was also shocked. In the midst of battle he rescues someone. Bumblebee carefully and gently put the mother down as she still held her child while looking at the Autobot with shaky eyes before screaming and running away in fear. This caused the scout to look down slightly, though it was expected. He resumed his glare as he turned to face the Lancelot, which had yet to make a move, as Suzaku didn't even attack yet. Seeing this as a chance to escape, as he possibly underestimated this nightmare and didn't want to drag out the fight, he punched the side of the building, causing a bit more rubble to fall down and create dust cloud. Suzaku tried to move the Lancelot into it, but when the dust cleared, the Autobot had already vanished. That thing saved someone's life. Suzaku was still in shock. Then, why was it helping those terrorists? What in the world is going on? Suzaku. He looked up to see Cecile's face on the communications screen. "Miss Cecile, you saw what I saw, right?" Cecile nodded. "I did, but I really don't know what it was. If you want, you could come back. We can take a break." Suzaku tried to straighten himself out. "No, it's fine. I'll keep going. I don't know what it was, but I wanna find out." He drove off further into the ghetto. Lelouch stood up out of the Sutherland as he was still rather surprised by what had just happened. He heard a faint noise behind him and turned around, only to backpedal slightly as Bumblebee was looking straight at him. The two of them both hiding in the ruined building. The exiled prince straightened himself up as he stared at the Autobot, and Bumblebee stared at him. It was an uneasy silence until Lelouch finally spoke. "You're not a nightmare, are you?" Bumblebee shook his head. "Can you understand me?" Bumblebee nodded. Lelouch soon chuckled slightly before it erupted into a full-blown laughter. First he gained the power to control people just by looking at them, now he was speaking to some kind of sentient machine that could transform into a car at will. Oh God, he held his face as he tried to suppress his laughs. This has been one hell of a day. Bumblebee simply waited for Lelouch to stop laughing. Although he had not expected this sort of reaction, something like this was only natural as this was the first ever human Autobot contact. He finally stopped laughing before Lelouch only had a smile and simply looked at him. "Are those other cars and trucks like you?" Lelouch asked as Bumblebee nodded in confirmation. "I suppose I can talk to them later, but first things first. You know, we're not far from Clovis transport, based on the Sutherland's data. What do you say we end this?" Bumblebee nodded with a serious look in his eyes. Lloyd stood outside as he spoke to himself. Unbelievable. A nightmare that could transform into a vehicle. I had come here hoping to find the perfect Devaker for the Lancelot. Not only do I succeed in that field, but I think I found something truly spectacular. He laughed giddily like an excited schoolgirl. I don't know what that thing was, but I want it. Bumblebee had transformed back into his vehicle form with Lelouch in the driver's seat as it drove toward the side of the blockade surrounding Clovis. Though a few soldiers guarded it, there were only 2 nightmares up front, but that didn't matter. They just had to get past this one guard and they could end it here. A soldier raised his hand to stop the yellow and black car as it slowly came to a halt. The soldier walked up with a gun in his hands. "Stop there. Step out of the car, this is Prince Clovis' personal transport." Lelouch smirked to himself. Finally, he lowered the window slowly to where the soldier could only see his eyes as he activated his Geass. "I'd like you to let us pass." Red rings formed in the soldier's eyes. "Yes sir, understood." He lowered his gun and stepped aside as Bumblebee proceeded toward the transport. RC drove Kallen and skidded to a halt in front of an abandoned warehouse. Kallen. In here. Ogi waved to them from inside the door. RC drove in with Kallen as the door was closed behind them. She got off as she and RC got a good look at this. There were only 4, maybe even 5 rebels left with a dozen civilians cowering and crying. All the disguised Autobots were present, including Optimus, Ironhide, Cliffjumper, and Bulkhead. "It's your fault," one civilian cried to the rebels. "This is what happens when you oppose the Brittanians." "What?" Tamaki questioned. "Why, you gutless coward?" A woman cried in despair. "How many people were killed because of this?" "Shut up," Tamaki exclaimed. "Do you know how many of us were killed or captured? Do ya?" The Autobots communicate with each other via their comms so the people couldn't hear them. "Look at this," Cliff said with sympathy in his voice. "All these people lost maybe their friends, families, their own homes. All because of Britannia," Ironhide growled. "Primus damn them all. They're every bit as bad as the Decepticons." "Wait, where's B?" Bulkhead questioned. "He went to help Lelouch last I saw of him," RC answered. "Optimus tried to contact him." "Bumblebee, report in. Where are you? We're going to end this right now." "Wait, RC questioned. "Ratchet, where's Bumble?" Ironhide questioned over the comms. "I've locked onto his signal. He's at the very edge of the ghetto. Right where Clovis transport is." "What?" Ironhide questioned before an explosion erupted from the gate up front. Everyone screamed as the Autobots rolled up front to protect all the civilians and rebels as a Brittanian tank and several foot soldiers swarmed in. "See, this is what we get for following a bunch of random guys we don't even know." Tamaki yelled toward Ogi. The disguised Autobots formed a defensive line in front of the Brittanian soldiers. No way would they allow more people to die like this. "So this is where you 11 vermin scurried off to," the soldier on top of the tank mused. "Prepare to fire." Optimus. Bulkhead gazed towards them. Inwardly, Optimus knew they were in a tight spot. The only way to save all these people was to drop their cover here and now. Kallen couldn't believe this. Was she going to die? Here, now. All she could do was close her eyes and cry her deceased older brother's name. "Naoto." Autobots. Optimus began. "Transef. Attention all forces. Cease fire at once." Clovis' voice echoed throughout the entire ghetto, surprising everyone, Japanese, Brittanian, and Autobot. "Cease fire." RC and Ogi questioned at the same time. Even Suzaku was stunned from his location. "Cease fire." Ratchet and Fixit also heard the announcement over the Autobot communications in the Ark. "I, Clovis, 3rd Prince of Britannia, and Royal Viceroy of Area 11, hereby command you." Every Brittanian soldier, including the stranded Jeremiah and Valletta, heard and looked in surprise, even Lloyd and Cecile. "All forces are ordered to cease fire at once. You will also cease destruction of any buildings or property. All casualties, whether Britannian or 11, shall be treated equally and without prejudice. Any injured 11s will also receive the proper medical treatment and all soldiers will provide proper relief aid to all the survivors within the Shinjuku ghetto. In the name of Clovis La Britannia, you are hereby ordered, ceasefire at once. I shall allow no further bloodshed." Bumblebee was parked behind Clovis transport and would have smirked if his face were visible. "Bumblebee, was that your doing?" Ratchet asked him. "Well, it was more so Lelouch than myself," he answered. "You and Lelouch made it to Clovis." RC questioned. "How did you get past all the guards?" Aside from the fact that most of them were sent into the ghetto beforehand, Lelouch used his eye power to get in. "Literally, I just drove in." "So where is Lelouch?" Ironhide asked. "Having a little chat with Clovis right now." "Does that mean, it's over?" Cliffjumper asked. Bumblebee would have laughed nervously if he could. "Not exactly." "What do you mean?" Optimus questioned. "Okay. Please don't be mad at me but Lelouch, sort of, saw me transform." The lights were shut off as Clovis glared toward the individual who had a gun pointed at him. He couldn't see his face in the shadows. "Are you satisfied?" he asked. "Very. Well done." Clovis scoffed. "And what shall we do now? Sing a few lively ballads? Or perhaps a nice game of chess? That has a familiar ring to it." Clovis looked in slight confusion. "Don't you recall?" The two of us used to play chess together as boys. Of course, I would always win. What? He clicked his gun. Remember? At the Ares villa. Clovis' glare hardened with confusion in the mix. You, who are you? Lelouch stepped into the light and revealed his face. It's been a long time, big brother. Clovis shot out of his chair, his eyes ready to completely bulge out as his pupils shrank. No. It was impossible. It couldn't be. The eldest child of the late consort Marianne, 17th in line to the imperial throne, Lelouch v Britannia at your service. He performed a mock bow. Lelouch. Clovis could not believe his eyes. But, I thought that I was dead. You were wrong. Lelouch couldn't hide his devilish smirk. I have returned, your highness. And I've come back to change everything. Robots and students in disguise. The sun had set upon the ruined battlefield that was the Shinjuku ghetto. Brittanian soldiers and nightmare frames were escorting all the 11s, including those in the residence, such as both Kallen, Tamaki, and Ogi, out of the ghetto to where they would receive medical attention per the orders of Prince Clovis, though several soldiers were not happy about this. Why the hell are we letting the 11s go? Jeremiah demanded over the radio. What about the poison gas they've stolen? But it's by order of Prince Clovis. One soldier responded. What about Bartley? Get the general staff on the line. Jeremiah ordered. They're not at their posts, sir. Are you telling me Prince Clovis is alone on the con? Jeremiah questioned in shock. As the people were being escorted out, Kallen spared a glance towards Clovis' mobile base. Why would a Brittanian prince call for not only a ceasefire, but order for 11s to receive medical treatment? And what happened to all those cars and trucks, or that woman on the motorcycle? Or even that voice on the radio? Were they somehow behind this? Just what in the hell was going on? Lelouch kept his pistol trained on his older half-brother as Clovis tried to put on a relieved smile, though his eyes radiant with fear. I'm overjoyed, Lelouch. Clovis tried. They said you died when Japan was brought into the fold. What a blessing to have you back. We should depart for the homeland immediately. So you can use me as a tool of diplomacy. Lelouch skeptically questioned. It seems you've forgotten why we were used as tools in the first place. Clovis gasped. That's right. It was because my mother was killed. That image was still vivid in his mind. Despite it being only 7 years ago, it was a night he will never forget. The sight of his dead mother, her body covered in blood and bullet holes, protectively holding his younger sister, Nunnally, who was shot in the legs, her eyes wide and radiant with fear and trauma with her hands twitching. Mother held the title of Knight of Honor, but was a commoner by birth. No doubt the other imperial consorts held her in contempt. His voice began to rise, with anger evident. Even though you made it look like the work of terrorists, I'm no fool. You people killed my mother. It wasn't me. Clovis screamed in fear. I swear to you it wasn't. Then tell me everything you know. The truth cannot be hidden from me any longer. Lelouch activated his newly acquired power as the Geass sigil formed in his eyes. By whose hand was she slain? The red sigil flew from his eye and into Clovis. His brainwave patterns were rewritten before a pair of red rings formed in his eyes. He relaxed before answering. My brother and sister, 2nd Prince Schneisel and 2nd Princess Cornelia, they can tell you. Lelouch gave a slight gasp in surprise. They were at the heart of this. Clovis didn't answer. That's all that you know, isn't it? He deactivated his power. Clovis shot up as the power wore off and he looked once more in fear. I swear it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with it. I believe you, Lelouch said, causing Clovis to calm down slightly. However, he put on his devilish smirk once more as he pointed his pistol right at his brother's head, right in between his eyes. Please. You can't. We may have different mothers, but you and I are still blood. You can't change the world without getting your hands dirty. Bang. Asterisk. Lelouch crawled out from the emergency exit via the back of the mobile base. He still kept the pistol with him, best to avoid leaving anything behind. Even if he was wearing gloves and didn't leave any prints, it was best not to leave any form of physical evidence. Despite that, all surveillance was shut down. As the exiled prince walked out from the back, he looked in mild surprise to find not only the same yellow and black car, revealed to be a transforming mechanical being, still there, but all the same vehicles from before. A blue motorcycle with a holographic female driver on top, a dark green SUV, a black and red pickup truck, a red car with a bullhorn accessory on the hood, and finally a red and blue semi-auto truck. Let me guess, you are all some kind of transforming machines. Yep, pretty much, Your Highness. The red car responded. This caught Lelouch by minor surprise, but since the yellow and black one already knew, he probably told the rest as well. Relax, we just want to talk to you. The blue motorcycle told him in a feminine voice. Lelouch looked towards the driver. Is that a person with you, or what? In direct response, the hologram deactivated, showing the motorcycle operating on its own. Kid, there's a lot going on that you don't understand. Clearly, that is the case. Lelouch stated. So, what now? We need you to come with us. The black truck stated. Don't worry, we're not gonna dump you in a ditch or anything like that, we just need to talk. The red car assured, but preferably in a spot that's less Britannia. Lelouch thought for a moment. Without a doubt, these vehicles were all some form of sentient machines, and from the looks of just one of them, far stronger than any nightmare he'd seen, even able to hold their own against that white nightmare from before. Maybe they could be useful in his goal to inevitably destroy Britannia. Very well, take me to where you need me to go. Lelouch said as the yellow car drove up towards him and opened its driver door. Lelouch stepped inside as the door closed and all the disguised Autobots drove off. The Autobots drove through several alleyways in the Shinjuku ghetto, far outside prying eyes. Once they were certain they were far enough away from any Britannian forces, as well from any one of Japanese ethnicity forced to live here, Optimus contacted the Ark. Ratchet, open a ground bridge, we are bringing company back to the Ark. Right after the order was given, a green swirling ground bridge portal opened up. Optimus was the first to enter, followed by Ironhide, RC, and Cliffjumper. Bumblebee entered with Bulkhead right behind him, and Lelouch could only look in shock and surprise at this. A portal. He'd only ever heard of this in science fiction novels and television shows. The Autobots exited the vortex and were within the ground bridge station of the Ark. Lelouch didn't get a chance to look in his surroundings as he suddenly felt sick in his stomach. Perhaps the portal gave him a case of vertigo. Fortunately for Bumblebee, Lelouch kept his lunch down as the cars drove through a few hallways before coming up towards the bridge. The vehicles came to a halt as Bumblebee opened his door and Lelouch stepped outside. Once he did, he saw all the vehicles transform where he could see the Autobots in their full glory, even a new one, a white and red Autobot that wasn't in Shinjuku. His eyes widened in surprise as he saw all of them. They came in many shapes and sizes, a few of them were even bigger and more bulky than nightmare frames, but what amazed him the most was the largest of the group. A hulking red and blue robot-like being that carried a strong presence with him, one that was both commanding and compassionate at the same time. Needless to say, Lelouch was nothing short of amazed. Cliffjumper chuckled slightly. Look at him, he's speechless. Lelouch regained his composure. You aren't just regular robots, are you? Ratchet scoffed. Police. The largest of the Autobots kneeled down and looked at Lelouch. Are you Lelouch v Britannia, 17th heir to the royal throne of Britannia? Yes. My name is Optimus Prime. We autonomous robotic organisms from the planet Cybertron, also known as Autobots. Alien, sentient, machines. Lelouch stuttered, still not quite over his surprise from all of this. Got that right, Princey. Cliffjumper teased. If you are from another planet, how can you speak English? Lelouch questioned. We have learned your planet's languages through your internet. Optimus answered as he began to introduce his team. I am the leader of the Autobots and these are my warriors. Bulkhead, RC, Cliffjumper, and Ironhide. Said black and red robot twirled pointed his arm cannons at Lelouch which began to glow, startling the ex-prince. You feeling lucky, punk? Whoa, take it easy Hyde. Bulkhead tried to calm him down. Ironhide had an amused smirk. Relax, just showing off my cannons a bit, plus I wanted to see the look on his face. Though Lelouch glared at that comment, he was also impressed. Whatever those cannons had, it could probably turn a nightmare into a pile of scrap metal in one shot. This my medical officer, Ratchet. Optimus introduced the medic who nodded in acknowledgement. A new voice spoke up. And I am the caretaker and maintenance chief of this vessel and Ratchet's assistant. A smaller, human-sized, robot rolled up to Lelouch. Call me Fix-It. Lelouch was quite surprised by this. You're smaller than I thought. I am what's known as a mini-con. Fix-It began to explain. A type of Cybertronian that is, as you might have guessed, smaller than others. Pleased to eat you. What? Eat you, greet you, meet you. Fix-It glitched. Apologizes, but my system's a bit glitchy. Fix-It extended his hand. Is this how you humans greet each other? Shaking servos. Hands, but, yes. Lelouch still shook his hand nonetheless. And you have already met our team scout, Bumblebee. Optimus introduced the final member of his team as Lelouch looked up to the yellow Autobot who played some rock music through his radio and motioned punches. Bumblebee, well, nice to officially meet you then. Lelouch greeted. Yep, same here, Bumblebee responded in bleeps, confusing the black-haired youth. How can I understand the rest of you, but not him? Bumblebee's voice box was damaged in battle. Ratchet responded. Though his current form of communication is understandable for Cybertronians, it clearly isn't the case for humans. Lelouch looked around at where he was. With the size of all the equipment, it was obviously Cybertronian made. So, where am I? What is this? He only just now noticed through the massive window of the bridge that they were underwater, evident by the sea life that swam around. What is this place? Are we underwater? We are at least 20 miles off the coast of the nation you call Japan. RC answered. As for where we are, you're standing on sacred ground, kid. This is the Ark. Ark. Is this some form of transport? Yep, a massive Autobot ship. Bulkhead responded. But it's been grounded since the Exodus. Exodus? Lelouch questioned before a serious look formed on his face and he addressed Optimus. If you are aliens from another planet, why are you here? On Earth. We are here because our planet is no longer inhabitable, ravaged by centuries of civil war. Optimus answered. War? Lelouch questioned. Between two rival factions, the Autobots, and our sworn enemy, the Decepticons. Optimus continued. A bunch of trigger-happy psychos who keep spouting off about universal domination and all that stuff. Cliffjumper added. Lelouch raised an eyebrow. Are these Decepticons here as well? More than likely. RC answered. They came out of the same portal we did. Why were you even fighting a war in the first place? Lelouch questioned. For a number of reasons. Optimus began. Foremost, over our world's supply of energon, the fuel and lifeblood of all Autobots and Decepticons alike. The combat was fierce and endured for centuries. In the beginning, I fought alongside one whom I considered a brother, but in war ideals can be corrupted, and it was thus that Megatron lost his way. Megatron. He's the leader of the Decepticons. Fix-It answered. He is strategic genius and a powerful warrior as well. Why are you all here on Earth, though? Why this planet? Lelouch asked once more. Because your planet is rich with energon. Ratchet explained. Late in the war, both sides had begun hiding their energon spoils off-world. Your planet managed to acquire a vast majority that could supply a whole civilization of Cybertronians for years to come. It also known to you as Sakuradite. That took Lelouch by surprise. Sakuradite, the fuel for nightmares, was an alien energy supply. It is for that reason that Brittania has been rapidly expanding its territory as well. Optimus answered. Wait, what do you mean by that? Lelouch questioned. Lelouch, we believe that Brittania is nothing more than a shadow, a puppet empire being controlled and manipulated by the Decepticons from the shadows. Optimus revealed. The former prince could not contain his surprise. What? He questioned in a tone that mixed shock and anger. Why do you think Brittania has all the most radical tech? Cliff asked. All those fancy nightmares, which just so happen to look like giant robots like us. On top of that, Brittania's ideals are pretty much the exact same as the cons. Ironhide added. They also believe, might makes right, survival of the fittest, all that scrap. Lelouch clenched his fists. How is it then I've never heard of any of this? He questioned. We also believe that the presence of the Decepticons is only known by the Emperor and a select few of his personal followers. Optimus answered. As evident by your reaction, I am doubtful that the rest of the Brittanian imperial family is aware of this. Lelouch's face was evident with anger. His own country, the same one that abandoned him in Nunnally and killed millions of people in a futile quest for power for decades, is nothing more than a puppet. Was all his hate misdirected? Was his desire for vengeance for nothing? Okay, your turn. RC told Lelouch. What's a Brittanian prince doing, fighting his own nation? She questioned. And how are you still alive anyway? Ironhide questioned as well. That is right, Fixit added. According to official records, Lelouch v Britannia died when Japan was invaded, him as well as his younger sister Nunnally v Britannia. You just answered your own question right there. Lelouch responded, anger still evident. Most of the Autobots shared concerned looks and expressions. How about you start from the top? Lelouch calmed down a bit before he spoke up. What do your records say about my mother, Marianne v Britannia? The records claim she was killed in a terrorist attack, 7 Earth years ago. Fixit answered. You're only half right. Lelouch began. It was 7 years ago, but it was not a terrorist attack. His response surprised most of the Autobots. The Ares Villa, my home at that time, was the most secure place in the entire empire, even more so than the royal palace. There was no way random terrorists could sneak inside. You think it was an inside job? Cliffjumper asked. I know it was. Lelouch responded as anger came back, his memory recalling the moment. I went to confront my father, the emperor, about it. Flashback, 7 years ago, Brittanian royal palace. Announcing Prince Lelouch v Britannia. 7th heir to the royal Brittanian imperial throne. The young adolescent prince walked into the massive throne room and through a lone line of nobles that bowed in his presence. Though he heard bits and pieces of whispers amongst them about what happened to his mother, the Ashford family's nobility status being called into question, and about how his sister can't even be married off for political game due to her disabilities now. That last comment made him even angrier, but he was here for one purpose right now. He stopped before a small set of stairs that led to his father's throne. Though he was a man easily in his 60s, he still had an imposing figure and carried a presence around him that demanded fear and respect. Hail your majesty. My mother the empress is dead. The young Lelouch announced. Old news, what of it? Charles Z. Britannia questioned in a bored tone. What of it? Lelouch questioned in shock. You sought an audience with the Emperor of Britannia simply to inform me of that. Charles turned to one of his attendants. Send the next one in. I have no time for these childish games. Father. Lelouch ran up towards him. The guards would have tried to intercept him, but Charles raised his hand to motion them to stop. Yes, your majesty. They stopped. Why didn't you keep mother out of harm's way? The young Lelouch demanded. You're the emperor. The greatest man in this nation if not the world. You should have protected her and now you don't even visit Nunnally. I have no use for that weakling. The young prince could not have believed what he just heard. That weakling. That is what it means to be royalty. Charles stated. The adolescent Lelouch was now filled with fury and rage. Then I don't want to be your heir, I give up my claim to the throne. He shouted. Every single noble in the palace looked at him in shock and were visibly appalled by his statement. I'm sick of the fighting and scheming over who will succeed you, father. I've had enough. You are dead. Lelouch looked in shock as Charles spoke to him. You've always been dead to me, dead from the moment you've been born. Who gave you the fine clothes you wear, a comfortable home, the food you eat in your very life? All of those, I have given to you. In short, you are nothing to me because you have never existed. Yet you dare to speak such foolishness to me. He shouted with a raised voice as he shot up from his throne, causing the frightened prince to fall on his back as his father glared at him with hate-filled eyes. Lelouch, you are dead, therefore you are not entitled to any rights. I am sending you and Nunnally to Japan. As prince and princess you will serve well as bargaining tools. End flashback. Each of the Autobots had their own shocked faces once Lelouch had finished. Ratchet, Cliffjumper, Bumblebee, and Fixit had looks of mild horror while Bulkhead, Ironhide, and RC were seething with anger. Optimus' look was one of seriousness as you looked at the young prince with pity. Lelouch held his hand down as his fists were so clenched his knuckles would have turned white. Lelouch, damn. I don't know what to say. Cliffjumper said. I do. Ironhide spoke up. I say we open a ground bridge portal right to the Brittanian palace right now and blow that whole place to smithereens. The veteran soldier shouted in anger. Lelouch looked up in surprise at that statement. I'm all for that. RC agreed. If we go in now, we can end Britannia's grip on this planet once and for all. The guy's about as bad as Megatron. Bulkhead growled as he formed a wrecking ball mace-like weapon on his right hand. I'd love to personally put that meatbag in his place with my bare hands. He smashed his club onto a console, completely wrecking it. Bulkhead. I needed that. Ratchet shouted at him. This was a day full of surprises for Lelouch. He hadn't expected these alien robots to be so sympathetic with him. On top of that, some of them were even willing to storm Britannia just for his sake. Yet there was also something that caught his attention. Ground bridge. Lelouch questioned. Yeah, that portal we came in here with. Cliffjumper answered. A toned-down version of a space bridge. I don't know what that is either. A space bridge was a portal system used on Cybertron that allowed for supplies and personnel to be transported from one location to another. Fix-It explained. A space bridge, by its title, allows for transportation on a galactic scale. While a ground bridge is only limited to the specific Rennet planet. So this ground bridge can send someone anywhere on Earth. Lelouch surmised. That is indeed correct. Fix-It confirmed with a nod. Lelouch raised an eyebrow with a half smile. That could come in handy. Optimus spoke to the rest of his team. While I agree that what happened to Lelouch is indeed tragic, and that perhaps the Emperor needs to be defeated, if we were to attack the capital of Britannia right now the consequences could be catastrophic. That's right. Lelouch agreed, surprising most of the bots. You're not seriously giving the Emperor a pass, are you? RC questioned. Absolutely not. Lelouch exclaimed. No one is more enraged than myself, believe me. But, look at where Britannia is now, look at how much of the planet it has in its grip. If the head were to be cut off now, not only the homeland, but all its colonies and areas will fall apart. It'll lead to anarchy and infighting as other royals and nobles try to fill in the power gap. Not to mention the Chinese Federation and the EU would try to take advantage of this as well, and that could lead to a full-blown war. Many of the Autobots were not only surprised, but also quite impressed. You really thought this through, haven't you? Ironhide asked with a raised eyebrow. I want to destroy Britannia, but not the whole planet. Lelouch stated. That is indeed correct. Optimus agreed. In addition, as Britannia is under the influence of the Decepticons, they too would join in the conflict and attempt to seize more power from the Earth themselves, leading to even more devastation and bloodshed. Ironhide, Bulkhead, and RC reluctantly calmed down as they knew he was right. If they did that, they'd be no different from the Decepticons. If we are to take a stand against Britannia, then we must do so that will not endanger innocent human lives. Optimus began. And although we may take the lives of soldiers on the battlefield, we must place limits on ourselves, else we risk inflicting the same fate to Earth as Cybertron. Which was why you waited till now, right? Lelouch asked. Because you were worried these Decepticons would step in. Optimus nodded. Correct. However, now that we actually have stepped in, we will end up facing them, sooner or later. Ratchet said. Ironhide sighed. Nothing we can do about that now, though. All we can do is be ready. Fix-It got the exiled prince's attention. Excuse me, Lelouch, if I may. The reports say that you and your sister Nunnally are both deceased. Obviously, it was exaggerated with you, but what about your sister? She's living with me, but she's blind and crippled. Lelouch answered as he looked down in grief. I'm sorry. Fix-It told him. Lelouch nodded in acknowledgement. Thanks. So, now that all the heavy stuff is out of the way, how do you like to team up, kid? Cliff asked Lelouch, somewhat surprising him. We both hate Britannia and the cons are gonna show up sooner or later. We know the Decepticons, and you know Britannia. You see where I'm going here. And if our last fight was any indication, you're also quite the strategist. Ironhide said. I'll admit, for a human, your plans were actually more than sound. Ratchet said. Thanks. Lelouch wasn't quite sure that was a compliment, but still. Your brains, and us backing you up, we can tear all those bad guys down in no time. Bulkhead exclaimed, looking forward to more fighting. So what do you say, Your Highness? RC offered. Though she was the one making the offer, she couldn't help but feel there was something about Lelouch that made her a bit uneasy. Lelouch smirked to himself. From all indication, a single Autobot was stronger than a whole squadron of nightmares, not to mention this ground bridge of theirs would be more than useful. He also knew they were correct, though he knew Britannia quite well. He knew next to nothing about the Decepticons, and if they were really the true masterminds behind Britannia, then they too shall know his vengeance. Very well, I accept. He nodded with a grin. Welcome to Team Prime, Your Majesty. Cliffjumper made a friendly mock bow. Though he knew Cliffjumper was joking, he winced a bit. I would appreciate it if you didn't call me that. Sorry. EP. Ratchet stopped any sort of celebration. Before we do anything with you, Lelouch, I'd personally like to know more about your power. My power? Yeah, you know where you can command anyone to do what you want just by looking at them. RC reminded. I Lelouch v Britannia command you. Now all of you, die. Bumblebee replayed the command he recorded on his radio, surprising Lelouch quite a bit. How do you even do that anyway? Bulkhead questioned. It's kinda scary. Lelouch had a stern gaze as he looked up to Bulkhead. Tell me your deepest secret. The red sigil in his eyes activated as he made eye contact with the big green Autobot, but he just looked confused. You mean embarrassing secret? Or a deep personal one? Bulkhead questioned. Lelouch looked in surprise. It didn't work. He voiced out loud. Most of the Autobots looked at him in surprise, though Ironhide, RC, and Ratchet seemed a bit suspicious. Oh my, something is glowing inside your optics. Fix-It saw the red sigil in Lelouch's eyes. Can all humans do that? Lelouch felt his face for a moment, his hand over his left eye. No, I didn't even have this. Till that mess in Shinjuku started. And you decided to test it on us. RC questioned. Without even asking permission, Ironhide noted. If I'm going to be honest, this is only the 5th time I've actually used it. Lelouch confessed. I can only affect a person via eye contact and that's all I know. The Autobots looked with seriousness at this. Optimus seemed the most concerned, though he was certain this sort of power could come in handy. From the looks of it though, it would strip an individual of their free will. Something about that didn't quite sit right with him. However, if interrogating an enemy, it would be easier to use something like that as opposed to taking less civil methods of interrogation. Seeing as how you know so little about this new power of yours, perhaps it's best that we study to better learn its implications. Ratchet said as he kneeled down closer to Lelouch's level. Now, keep that power activated for a moment. Maybe that was the best option. Lelouch didn't know anything about this power. What other limits does it have besides the eye contact thing? Apparently it doesn't work on Cybertronians either. Does it have any side effects? The only person who could answer that was that green-haired girl and she's dead. So with a sigh, he kept his power activated, the red sigil resembling a bird still glowing in his left eye. Ratchet pressed a few buttons on his arm and a scanner activated, and a blue light shined on Lelouch as Ratchet scanned him from head to toe before standing up. Probably too late to ask, but do you know anything about human biology? Lelouch questioned. Ratchet scoffed. I've studied your primitive anatomy for quite some time. Though it is a bit messier than Cybertronian biology, your organic systems are somewhat similar. Well, with that being said, perhaps a study of this power could help us to discover how it works. Fix-It stated. Very well then, Optimus began. Lelouch, I believe it is best that you return to your home for now. We will contact you at a later date. Lelouch nodded in response. Bumblebee, escort him home. Bumblebee transformed back into his vehicle form and opened up his front door. Lelouch stepped inside, but before the door closed. Oh, one more thing. Fix-It began. Where do you live? Just so we can input the coordinates into our ground bridge. I am at the Ashford Academy within the Tokyo settlement. Lelouch answered. Very well. Ratchet went to a console, the one that Bulkhead did not break. I have the coordinates, and a ground bridge portal will be active once you reach the bay and the ship. The door closed and Bumblebee drove off with Lelouch, leaving the remaining Autobots. Optimus, are you sure about this? Ironhide asked. I mean, bringing him into the fold and all. The kid may be smart, and that power of his could be useful, but I can't help but get this feeling around him. RC said. Like maybe he doesn't fully trust us, or anyone for that matter. Well, if your whole family abandoned you and left you to die, you'd have trust issues too, right? Cliffjumper said. And besides, I know you had trust issues before RC, so I don't think you have room to talk about him. RC looked down a bit as she knew he was right. After what happened to her old partner, Tailgate, she had some trust issues herself. That being said, while she was somewhat suspicious of Lelouch, she could sympathize with him a bit. Still, he tried to use that power on us. Ratchet input. Maybe he was trying to demonstrate it. Bulkhead said. I mean, it's not like he asked us to kick our own buckets too, right? I will agree that Lelouch may have some issues. Optimus spoke up. I believe that his intentions may be in the right place, and given our current situation, I feel that we need him as much as he needs us. Ironhide knew he was right about that. Alright, I see your point. So what now? Bulkhead asked. Now we wait. Optimus said. Given Lelouch's demeanor, I believe it is safe to assume that he killed Prince Clovis. Now it is Britannia's turn, and incidentally, Megatron's. I can only hope that Lelouch is ready for what is to come. After that, Lelouch was returned to the Ashford Academy. A ground bridge portal had dropped off Bumblebee in an alleyway a couple miles away from the school as to not draw any attention. Traffic was alright. Lelouch was dropped off late at night. Things seemed to go smoothly from that point forward, until the next morning. Smack. Asterisk. Wake up, Lelouch. Millie smacked him on the head with a rolled up paper. I know you were sleeping. Your hand stopped moving. Lelouch reluctantly brought himself out of his nap, remembering he was in the student council meeting room along with fellow members Millie, Rivals, Shirley, and Nina. Well, you don't have to beat me up over it, do you? Rivals had a bragging smile. Serves you right for ditching me like that. That's right, Shirley agreed. What was up with you yesterday? Oh, well, Lelouch stuttered. I ran into a group of alien robots and am now about to declare war against Britannia. Oh, and Britannia is nothing more than a puppet to some other group of aliens. That's enough, you guys. Millie got right to business. Let's not get sidetracked here. If we don't come up with a fix for the club activities, budget, there won't be money left for anything at all. And if it comes to that point, Nina uttered quietly, still working primarily on the computer in the corner. The equestrian club will be pissed. Rivals joked. We don't want them coming in here on horseback. Rivals, can't you be a more serious student council member? Millie chastised. You know, it would have been nice of you if you would have reminded us of this mess a day ago. Shirley told Millie. I would have to say a day later, then we would have given up. Rivals continued to joke. Good idea, we can still do that. Lelouch joked as well. Guts. Everyone winced at Millie's outburst. Are you trying that guts spell again? Rivals questioned. Yep, she confirmed with a mischievous grin. I want you people to start putting your all into this. I really don't think your magic is gonna do a whole lot. Lelouch said blankly. Actually, it's got me going, Madam President. Shirley raised her hand, feeling motivated. Supple and willing, that's what I like. I train hard in the gymnastics club. Shirley proclaimed with a proud grin. That's not what I was getting at. Millie said, causing Shirley to look in confusion. You're a 10. Shirley looked at where Millie's eyes were trailed at, her assets. From what I've seen in the girls' bathroom anyway. You've been filling out in all the right places, huh? Rivals chuckled as he gave a perverted glance at Shirley's chest as well, causing her to blush in embarrassment as she covered herself. Wah, what are you talking about, you perv? After the student council meeting ended, Lelouch, Shirley, Rivals, and Nina were walking toward their next class. Geass, our president is just a dirty old man on the inside. Sullying the meeting with her filthy mind. Shirley complained. Yeah, well, that's Millie for you. Nina said. Rivals laughed a bit. Look at the bright side. We got the budget balanced, didn't we? The group walked in and saw several students looking at news footage on several laptops. They used poison gas. Man, that's freaky. Shinjuku is only 30 minutes from here. They were watching live news footage of the ghetto being cornered off with soldiers on guard as well as men in hazmat suits working. No doubt covering up what really happened there yesterday. Oh my god. I saw smoke rising up over in Shinjuku. It must have been the gas. Are they saying anything else about it? Shirley looked over to Lelouch. Shinjuku. She remembered he called her yesterday asking her about that. I heard about in real time from a friend. That's why I called you. He looked at the news footage and had a serious look in his eyes. No doubt the Autobots were seeing this as well. The Ark, Optimus, RC, Bulkhead, Ironhide, Ratchet, Cliffjumper, and Fixit were watching the news report as well from a holographic screen onboard the ship's bridge. Poison gas, huh? Bulkhead questioned. Wonder how long it took to come up with that. Ratchet, have they said anything in regards to Prince Clovis? Optimus asked. No, nothing yet, Ratchet answered. Best guess, they're trying to cover it up to fend off the inevitable anarchy that could result from this. Why wait to cover up something like that? Fix it questioned. They'll have to release a statement eventually. Lelouch more than likely covered his tracks, so they're trying to find something they can work with, or rather, someone to take the fall. Ironhide reasoned. So they're gonna use a scapegoat. RC guessed. More than likely. Ironhide responded. So, what do we do now, bossman? Cliffjumper asked their leader. You think something like that will get Megatron's attention? It's not every day a Brittanian royal is killed. It is a possibility, Optimus said. However, until we know for certain, we should refrain from taking any action for the moment. Anything from Bumblebee? He's still at the academy. Ratchet noted. As of yet, nothing suspicious is happening. Optimus nodded as he continued to look at the news report. It was only a matter of time until they released a statement on Clovis, but until they knew what kind of statement they'd be releasing, it was best to lay low for the time being. Area 11. A fancy car was allowed to pass through a military-restricted zone, the passengers of the car being Jeremiah and Valletta. That ex-civil servant is such a fool, Jeremiah uttered. So are you referring to Bartley? Valletta asked. The killer has breached our heaviest security twice already. Jeremiah responded. This perfunctory inspection is a farce. Valletta looked towards her superior with an ambitious gaze. Margrave Jeremiah, now that Prince Clovis is out of the way, we purebloods can. Jeremiah raised a finger in front of her as he smirked. Let me make that call. We still have to woo everyone over. Ashford Academy. Lelouch walked a bit outside, letting some of these new events sink in. He was now allied with alien refugees that are capable of holding their own against nightmares, not to mention he also got a power that could allow him to control virtually everyone just by looking at them. This certainly gave him an advantage. But still, Britannia was an empire that made up at least 1/3 of the whole planet, not to mention there were these Decepticons as well. They presented a real wild card from him. If he was serious about doing this, he knew that he had to step very carefully. His attention was caught by a group of students in the parking lot. Two of them happened to be Shirley and Rivals. Hey Lelouch, come check this out. His blue-haired friend waved to him. He walked over toward the crowd, and what he saw made his eyes go wide. It was Bumblebee, still in his vehicle mode, fortunately. All the students were looking at the muscle car with amazement in their eyes. Just look at this beauty. Man, check out these tires too. I really like those racing stripes. What are these wheels made of? Stainless steel. Well, this is one very nice car. Rivals stated. Wonder whose it is. It's mine actually, Lelouch said, causing everyone to look at him in shock and surprise. It's your car? Whoa, no way. Man, you've got some awesome taste. Lulu, this is your car? Shirley questioned in shock. Geez, how'd you manage to afford something like this? Rivals questioned as well. You remember all that money we got from gambling? Lelouch told him. I had to spend it on something. Rivals turned around, hands at his hips, as he looked at the car with a smile. Well, I'd say you spent it wisely. I mean, I would have probably got a motorcycle, but this is pretty cool. Shirley, however, did not share the optimism. Lelouch, why would you even buy a car? You don't even have a license. I'm working on getting one. He told her. Don't worry, I'm not gonna go street racing or anything like that. You'd better not. That stuff's even more dangerous than gambling. Shirley lightly scolded. After a few more questions and compliments, the group of students dispersed to get some lunch before their next class. Once they were all clear, Lelouch leaned against Bumblebee's side. Guess you got a bit of a fan club now, huh? What can I say? The kids love me. Bumblebee bragged a bit in bleeps. You know I still can't understand you, right? Lelouch reminded. In response to that, the side window opened and the dashboard opened up to reveal some sort of disc-shaped device that looked like a hearing aid of sorts. Lelouch picked it up and inspected it before putting it in his right ear. Can you understand me now? Bumblebee asked. While bleeping noises were heard outside, with the earpiece on, Lelouch could hear actual words, just translated in the form of a monotone computer. Yes, I can understand you now. Lelouch answered. So what are you doing here? The Autobots asked you to keep an eye on me. More like keeping an eye out for you. The disguised scout responded. After all, you're a part of the team to now, aren't you? You saw the news. Lelouch questioned. Heard it over the radio. Poison gas, what a load. They'll make an announcement soon. They can't hide something like this forever. Lelouch said. However, the young prince happened to overhear a group of girls talking nearby. Kallen. It's been ages. One of them greeted a red-haired girl that looked a bit familiar. Are you alright? Sylphie's been worried sick all this time. You're okay though, right? Yeah, Kallen answered in a fake timid voice. I just have to go easy for a little while. Lelouch instantly recognized the voice. This girl was the same on in the Glasgow in Shinjuku. He lightly knocked on Bumblebee's side. Hey, you see that girl over there? The one in the red hair? He whispered. Yeah, she was in Shinjuku, the woman in the Glasgow. Lelouch said with a serious look in his eyes. If Bumblebee's face were present, his optics would have widened in surprise. Whoa, you sure? Positive, Lelouch confirmed. I saw her face before, and I never forget a voice. Do you know her? Bumblebee asked. Not personally. The exiled prince replied. All I know is her name, Kallen Statfeld. Apparently her father is rich, but she's sick all the time. Well, given we saw her pilot a nightmare and take out several Sutherlands back in Shinjuku, I don't think that's really who she is. Bumblebee commented, to which Lelouch nodded. So, what are you gonna do? You gonna use the stare on her? The stare? You know, that eye power of yours. Since when did I call it, the stare? Lelouch criticized. Gotta call it something. I'm not calling it, the stare. Lelouch said as he walked away and slowly made his way to the group of girls having lunch. A bee happened to fly by the group, resulting in the girls screaming and running away save for Kallen. I don't get it, she uttered to herself as the bee flew around her. Why's a bee after me? I wonder if there's a hive nearby. She said before swiping her hand at it, resulting in the bee falling the ground, having been sliced in half. God, I hate this. Kallen exclaimed to herself, letting her true personality come out. I'm sick of acting like a freaking invalid. She bit down on her sandwich aggressively, but turned to her side to see Lelouch staring at her. Crap, he saw me. She quickly put on her secret identity. Can I help you with something? I want answers. Lelouch's Geass flew into her eyes, and she fell under his control. Of course. Were you the one piloting the Glasgow in Shinjuku? Lelouch questioned. Yes, Kallen answered automatically. Why terrorism? Because I'm Japanese. Though technically I'm half Brittanian. Kallen revealed, surprising Lelouch. Half-blood. But why go so far? As Lelouch continued to question Kallen, Shirley saw the two of them through a window on the second floor of the academy building, but she couldn't hear what they were talking about. The Geass wore off on Kallen. She had no memory of what just happened and acted with her secret identity as usual. Did you want something? No, I got what I wanted here. He was about to walk away before turning around. Oh wait, just to be sure. He activated his Geass again. Don't tell anyone about Shinjuku. That surprised Kallen. What do you mean about Shinjuku? Why would you say that? She asked with suspicion mixed in her fake timid voice. Lelouch looked in surprise. His Geass didn't work, but it worked literally just a second ago. He tried it again. Go back to class. As soon as I get an answer to my question I will. It's not working. What's going on here? Lelouch thought in confusion. The two stared at each other in a suspense before Lelouch heard Shirley call out to them. Hey, Lulu, Kallen. She waved to them from the second floor of the academy building. You know it's time to head over to the chem lab. You better get a move on. Oh crap, it's my turn to set up for class. Lelouch ran back towards the school with a surprised and suspicious Kallen looking towards him. As this happened, Bumblebee listened to the entire conversation, still in his vehicle form and from a concealed spot so Kallen wouldn't recognize him, and he was about as surprised as Lelouch. Well, this could be a problem. Later that night, a young girl, Nunnally, with long light brown hair, and closed eyes, bound by a wheelchair, sat at a table alongside a young Japanese woman dressed as a maid with some origami laid along the table. Well, what should we do? The maid asked as she folded some paper. He may be late again this evening. I'll wait, Nunnally replied. He said that we'd have dinner again tonight. The maid bore a small smile as she finished folding a pink paper crane and handed it to Nunnally. There now, this one's finished. Nunnally took it in her hand and felt it. A bird. Yes, it's a crane. Amazing, Nunnally said. The Japanese are so skillful. This earned a smile from the maid, before the door opened automatically, revealing Lelouch as he walked inside. I'm sorry I'm so late. He apologized. Hi Lelouch, welcome home. Nunnally greeted her big brother. Yes, welcome home my lord. The maid greeted as well. No place like it Sayoko. Right, Nunnally. The Ark. Are you sure about this? Ironhide asked Bumblebee over the comms. No mistake, it was that same girl, Bumblebee confirmed. And you're saying Lelouch's power worked on her, and then it didn't? RC questioned. Yeah, all he had to do was mention Shinjuku, and now she's getting a bit suspicious. Well, this could be an issue. Cliffjumper stated. Optimus had similar thoughts before he spoke. Did she see you? No, I'm keeping out of sight for right now. Good. Maintain your position for now Bumblebee. Optimus told him. We will contact you later. Yes sir. Bumblebee logged off. So, maybe the kid can only use his power on someone once. Bulkhead guessed. Perhaps. Optimus responded before accessing the comms again. Ratchet, have you found anything in regards to Lelouch's new power? Ratchet, along with Fix-It, were in the Ark's only functional laboratory, which wasn't too far from the bridge. Both of them were at separate computer consoles analyzing the energy readings they received after scanning Lelouch. This energy. It's giving off readings that I've never seen before. Ratchet informed. I honestly have no idea what it is. So you haven't found anything? Ironhide questioned over the comm link. Well, we did find that it appears to some form of bioenergy, so to speak. Fix-It began. The energy seems to work on the same principles as Energon, and yet, so different. Test readings indicate however that it seems to only respond to organic matter. Ratchet added as he typed some information down. Which may be the reason why the power hadn't affected us. We are made from a techno-organic material. Optimus said. Even the base elements of our biology are radically different from humans. That being said, it seems Lelouch's power may affect humans, but it is virtually useless on Cybertronians. Ratchet concluded. So much for him using it on old Buckethead and making him surrender. Cliffjumper joked. Even so there's still so much about this we don't show, Bo, no. Fix-It glitched. If we find anything we'll be sure to let you know. Ratchet informed the group. Understood. Optimus replied. The bridge. Optimus, listen. Ironhide stated. Even with Lelouch's power, it might not be enough. Even if we were only fighting Brittania, there's only 7 of us, 9 if you count Fix-It and Lelouch. Brittania may not exactly be as advanced as us, but we're still outnumbered 100 to 1, maybe even 1,000. I am aware. Optimus replied. Which is why I have been thinking, if we are to truly take a stand against not just Brittania but Megatron as well, we will need to rely on outside help. That caught all the Autobots' attention. You wanna bring humans into this? RC questioned. Well, that resistance group we met did manage to put up a decent fight back in Shinjuku. Cliffjumper recalled. And we know that one Glasgow pilot is at Lelouch's school so. But aren't we supposed to be robots in disguise? Bulkhead questioned. And what happened to our motto? You know, protect the weak. I agree that there are risks in taking such an approach. Optimus said. However, it is as Ironhide said. We lack both the personnel and resources to truly make a stand. Humanity must also learn to stand on its own feet as well. If we hope to save this planet, we must teach its inhabitants to stand up and defend themselves. Area 11 Unknown Laboratory. As you know full well, the project was a complete failure. General Bartley told the scientists working at the laboratory, which was filled with straitjackets as well as identical sphere-like devices that resembled the one that contained the green-haired girl. Therefore this research division is being gutted. The scientists all looked in surprise. Yes, but I've set up a place in Narita for you. Bartley continued. Move everything out there. While we may have no memory of it, the fact is the other staff officers and I left Prince Clovis on his own. Bartley began to look very nervous. I'm gonna be called out on the carpet for this back at home, and when that happens, if His Majesty learns that this experiment gone on without his knowledge I. Understood, sir. A scientist said. We'll start prepping immediately. Among the first things the scientists began to pack were several old documents and old photographs that all depicted the same green-haired woman, even pictures of the scientists experimenting on her in lab tables and chairs, and not just her. A few pictures even depicted a teenage boy with snow-white hair also being experimented on. Ashford Academy, Lelouch's residence. Lelouch sat at a dining room table with his younger sister as he cut up her steak for her while she talked to him. Miss Sayoko was just teaching me the art of origami. Nunnally explained as Lelouch handed her the food he cut up for her. Fold a piece of paper the correct way and you can make birds, boats, almost anything. Nunnally tried to slurp some soup, but some fell down her chin. Lelouch took a napkin. Easy there, you don't have to tell me everything all at once, you know. He told her as he wiped her chin. It's not like I'm going anywhere. Nunnally smiled. Yeah, you're right. Thank you. Lelouch gave his sister an honest smile. You're very welcome. I'm so happy, 'cause last night, you scared me a little. Did I? He lost his smile and looked down. Sorry, I just have a lot on my mind is all. Hey. Nunnally got his attention as she held the origami crane from before. They say if you fold 1,000 of these cranes, your wish will come true. So if there's anything at all that you've been wishing for. No, not really. Lelouch replied. What about you? Do you wish for anything? I wish the world was a gentler place. The older brother gave a sympathetic smile. When the day finally comes that you can see again, I'm sure that it will be. Really? Nunnally asked in a hopeful tone. I promise. Though Lelouch had a smile on his face, inside he seemed doubtful. The truth is, there are very few paths our future can take. The Ashford family is sheltering us for now, but how long can that last? If our identity is exposed, even rivals surely could abandon us. Unless, wait, Lelouch recalled his first meeting with the Autobots. Some of them were willing to storm the Brittanian capital, just for my sake. The Autobots know who we are, but I don't think they'd use us as political tools. If what they say is true, and these Decepticons are really out there, maybe, Nunnally would be safe with the Autobots. He gently took his little sister's hand. I always thought a peaceful Earth would be impossible, not with the path Britannia is currently taking. But maybe with the Autobots' help, it is. Nunnally lifted her brother's hand and locked her pinky with his, mildly surprising him. Sayoko taught me this the other day. It's called a Japanese promise. She began to sing. Cross my heart, hope to die, eat 1,000 needles if I die. Pinky promise song. She finished with a giggle. Lelouch had a surprised smile on his face. Well, that's scary, I may have to eat 1,000 needles someday. That's right, so I better not catch you telling lies, okay? Nunnally playfully warned. Don't worry, I'll never lie, I swear. Lelouch promised her. Not to you anyway, he said with thoughts. The next day, Lelouch leaned against Bumblebee's vehicle form in the parking lot outside Ashford Academy. So, you find anything on your end? Nope, Bumblebee replied. Ratchet hasn't seen anything like this before, he's stumped, which is a first for him. Lelouch turned around and saw his own reflection with the Geass sigil in his left eye. Aside from you and the rest of the Autobots, this is the only weapon I have, and neither of us seem to know how it works. How do you even get that power in the first place? You remember that girl you saw when we first met? Lelouch recalled. Bumblebee did indeed remember, the one with green hair that was shot in the head. She gave it to me. Really? She gave you that power? How? Why? I think the better question is who, as in who was she? So you didn't know her? Bumblebee asked. No, I did not. In fact, she was probably the reason that whole mess in Shijuku even started. Lelouch stated. Seiwa. Those terrorists that Kallen is with, they stole a truck in the settlement. It had some kind of container and that girl was inside it. Apparently everyone thought it was poison gas, so it was probably a secret that only a few people knew. If Bumblebee could, he would have sighed. Why do I have the feeling we stepped into some pretty crazy stuff here? Lelouch bore a humorous smile. Probably not as crazy as meeting a group of alien robots fighting a secret war here on Earth. Point taken. Lelouch. The raven-haired teen looked up to see a teacher calling his name as he walked by. Class will be starting any minute, you know. Oh, yes sir. He smirked a bit, maybe he just needed to test his newfound power. He activated his Geass once more. Sir, what are the topics going to be for the essays on your next exam?" It worked on him as red rings formed in his eyes. The humiliation of Edinburgh, the transfer of the capital, and North and South war topics. Okay, so he still has the stare. Bumblebee thought to himself as Lelouch thought the same thing. He deactivated his Geass, freeing the teacher, before reactivating it and asking the same question. "Sir, what exactly are the topics going to be on the essay for your next exam?" This time the power did not work. "Right, very funny. Maybe you should try studying, just apply yourself, you'll define," he said as he walked away. "Yes sir," Lelouch called out to him as he maintained a victorious smirk. "Hey, we learned something. You can only use the stare on someone once," Bumblebee told him. "Looks that way, but I'm still not calling it the stare," Lelouch replied. "Suit yourself. Oh, I forgot to mention," Bumblebee began. "Ratchet also said it would only work on humans cause our biologies are different or something like that. So when we meet the cons, don't use it on them because it won't work. I had a feeling that was the case, after I tried to use it on Bulkhead back at your base," Lelouch said. "So these Decepticons, are they as bad as Brittania?" "No, they're even worse," Bumblebee answered grimly. "You really think so?" Lelouch responded. "Trust me on this one. When you finally see them, you'll know," Bumblebee told him. Changing the subject, "What are gonna do about Kallen? You wanna bring her in? A Brittanian prince with the power to control people by looking at them recruiting someone from a terrorist group to fight Brittania. How do you think that's gonna go?" "Ooh, yeah you're right. But still, she's getting a bit suspicious." "I know," Lelouch replied. "And I have a plan. I need you to record something for me." Speaking of Kallen, she stood on the roof at the Ashford Academy, speaking to Ogie over the phone. "So, how's campus life treating you?" "Stifling," Kallen answered bluntly. "I was stuck in history class yesterday. Look, maybe I should just head back. The army's on a high alert right now," Ogie replied. "Stay there, and let things cool off." "But what about that voice on the radio?" Kallen asked. "Or those drivers that helped us? We never even learned their names or seen their faces, so we wouldn't know who we're searching for anyway. Besides, Naoto would be happy to see you back in school." Kallen winced slightly. She knew he was right, and while she did love and miss her late older brother, he had always been too protective over her. "Forget about Shinjuku for now. I'll be in touch." Ogie hung up. "Shinjuku, I guess he's right, but," Kallen muttered to herself before she recalled her meeting with that raven-haired boy yesterday. He said, "Don't tell anyone about Shinjuku." No, it couldn't have been his voice. In her next class she shared with Lelouch, Kallen kept an eye trained on him. She listened to him as he stood up and answered the teacher's question. His voice did sound very similar to the one she heard over the radio. But she couldn't really remember well enough to be sure. However, if it was the same person over the radio and he knew who she really was, then she'd have to take care of him. Lelouch sat back down and noticed that Kallen was looking at him from a discreet mirror. All he did was mention Shinjuku, but it was definitely a good thing he spoke with Bumblebee beforehand. He had everything already planned out. Class ended and all the students put their books away and were leaving. Shirley walked towards Lelouch. "Hey Lulu, you coming along?" "Sorry, maybe another time," he told her as he walked towards Kallen as she was chatting with some of her friends, though they were somewhat surprised to find Lelouch walking toward them, and he looked at Kallen. "You think you could spare a minute?" he asked her. "I need to talk to you." Shirley, and all the other girls looked in surprise, and even greater surprise as Kallen stood up to answer him. "Sure, I was wondering when you were gonna ask." "Huh," Shirley voiced aloud as all the other girls gave squeals of delight. Meanwhile, elsewhere in Area 11, a guard of Sutherland's escorted a large armored transport. This transport happened to carry a decorated coffin, which held the body of the late Prince Clovis inside, with General Bartley sitting next to it talking to someone else on a private communication line. "And the research center transferred to Narita last night." "Right then," he said as he hung up. He held his forehead in despair. "I pray you forgive me, Your Highness." Suddenly, however, the transport came to a screeching halt, almost throwing him out of his seat. What's happening?" Right outside, several other Sutherlands, being piloted by the Pureblood faction, were quickly disarming all the Sutherlands via headshots. They surrounded the transport in less than a minute. I hope you can see how determined we are now. Jeremiah's voice shouted through the speaker of his Sutherland as it began to tear off the roof of the transport, exposing a frightened Bartley. But I've already told you. That you don't remember. Still clinging to that ridiculous excuse. The Sutherland completely tore the roof off as Jeremiah's cockpit opened and his angered face became visible. Just ask the others, Bartley exclaimed. They'll testify. Ducking the blame. You're pathetic. Jeremiah spat. You shan't remain at His Royal Highness, sighed another minute. Ashford Academy Clubhouse. Lelouch and Kallen stood alone in the large grand hallway of the clubhouse, which was already decorated with fancy tables. I didn't even know this room existed. Kallen said. It's the clubhouse for the student council. Lelouch revealed. They built it as a ballroom for various special occasions. And we won't be disturbed inside here? Kallen asked. Yes, that's correct. However, before either of them could do anything, they heard a new voice from further up on the upper floor. Here it is, Shirley exclaimed, and she wasn't the only one there. I found it. Look. She held up a small microchip. This is it, right? She handed it to Nina, who walked up. What a relief you found our lab data. Rival stood up with a groan. Good, my ass is killing me. A door opened to reveal Millie, wearing an apron, wheeling in a cart of food. Were you able to find it? I finished up on my end, shall we dig in? Rivals, Nina, and Shirley each looked excited. Oh wow. Rivals odd. Wait to go, Millie. Shirley praised, resulting in the blonde giggling as the trio quickly came down the stairs. You adore me, I know. She said as she put the trays of food on one of the tables. What is all of this? Lelouch questioned in mild surprise. Lelouch, don't you know? I thought that was why you brought her. Millie answered. We're inducting Kallen into the student council. She said, much to Kallen's surprise. It was my grandfather's idea, actually. The principals. He thought it best with her health she'd have a hard time with regular club activities. She addressed the red-haired girl directly. Oh, I'm Millie, the president of the council, pleasure to meet you. Kallen maintained her persona, but hid her disappointment at not being able to get information out of Lelouch. Thank you, the pleasure's all mine. The other student council members approached her as well. I'm Rivals, the secretary. If there's anything you need help with, I'm your man. Hi, I'm Shirley, and I'm a member of the swim club. Welcome. Hi there, my name's Nina. It's nice to meet all of you. Kallen said. Nunnally also came in via her powered wheelchair with a couple boxes of pizza on her lap as well as plate of desserts. Shirley, I'm sorry, but do you think you can set these on the table for me? Oh sure, thanks Nana. She told the younger girl as she came over to help. Nunnally, what are you doing here? Lelouch asked. Kallen however looked in sympathy. Even if the girl was Brittanian, it was still upsetting to see someone reduced to such a sad state. This is Lelouch's sister. Millie introduced to Kallen. I'm still in the middle school group, so I can't be on the council yet. Nunnally said. That's right, you're an honorary member in our book. Rivals assured as Nina nodded in agreement. Hello there, it's a pleasure to meet you, Kallen. Nunnally greeted with a smile. Kallen actually gave a real friendly smile to the younger and disabled girl. Thank you, you as well. Rivals excitedly got out a bottle of some expensive champagne. Right, shall we kick this off with a toast? This surprised a few members of the council. Champagne? Shirley questioned. But we're on the student council, we shouldn't. Nina shyly protested. Aw come on, loosen up you guys. Rivals tried to pry the cork off the bottle. No way, we're gonna get in trouble. Shirley tried to wrestle the bottle out of his hands. Nunnally looked a bit confused. What's going on? Millie walked up to her and gently handed her a glass of apple juice. Here Nunny. Rivals tried to keep the bottle away from Shirley. Lelouch, heads up. He tossed the bottle to him, which he caught. Shirley shoved Rivals out of the way as she ran toward him. You're not getting away with this either, Lulu. However, she accidentally tripped and fell on top of him, causing them both to fall onto the ground, where the cork accidentally popped and went flying at Kallen. She was quick to swat it away, but accidentally got sprayed by the champagne itself. Everyone stopped and winced slightly. What just happened? Nunnally asked. Kallen's school uniform was put in the wash as she herself was in the clubhouse's shower. It was gonna be hard to get the smell of alcohol off her. This is why I hate Brittanians. She muttered to herself. She suddenly heard a knock on the door. It's Lelouch, I brought you a change of clothes. You can come in, I've drawn the curtain. Kallen told him. The door opened and he had an armful of clothes with him. Sorry about all this, I know they can be a little over the top. That's okay, nothing wrong with cutting loose every once in a while, you know. Lelouch set the clothes down in an empty laundry basket. These are some of my clothes, hope that's okay. It's cool, don't worry about. Kallen replied. That was fast, you went all the way to the boys' dorm. Actually, I live here. Lelouch replied, surprising Kallen. It would be pretty hard for my sister to live off in the dorms, the principal of the school lets us stay here as a favor. I see. Lelouch was about to walk out. Anyway. Hey wait, she called to him, causing him to stop. They were alone, she probably wouldn't have a better chance than right now to get some information out of him. Her hand stuck out of the curtain. Could you hand me that pouch over there? Lelouch saw a pink pouch on the sink. Sure. He took it and turned around, so that he couldn't see her accidentally, as he handed it to her. The moment his hand was inside the curtain, she grabbed him tightly by the wrist. He looked in mild surprise. You really are a live wire, aren't you? Were you the one in Shinjuku? Kallen questioned. What do you mean? Lelouch asked, having expected this. Don't play dumb. You brought up Shinjuku the other day. Kallen stated. Why? Why do you ask? Is there something wrong with Shinjuku? Lelouch asked, providing a better innocent act than her sick persona. Don't answer my question with a question, she exclaimed as she picked up the fallen pouch off the shower floor. Yes or no, that's all I wanna hear out of you. With a click, a small blade came out of the pouch. Right after that, the phone on the wall next to them began to ring. If I don't answer it, someone will come, Lelouch told her. She winced at that, she didn't need any more complications right now. Answer it. He picked up the phone. Hello. Ashford Academy Student Council. He acted like someone was on the other end. No, this is, oh, it's for you. He says he knows you. Kallen looked in mild surprise as Lelouch handed the phone through the curtain. She slowly put her blade down as she took the phone. Hello. Glad you're still alive, Q-1. Her pupils shrank. It was the same voice from Shinjuku. He addressed her by the code name from before. But she was holding Lelouch's wrist and he didn't have a phone on him. So, then, he wasn't the voice over the radio. 1600 hours, the day after tomorrow. The observation deck at Tokyo Tower, come alone. Who are you? How did you arrange that ceasefire order? She demanded, but the person on the other end hung up. Hey, don't hang up. She pulled on the phone, still keeping a firm grip on Lelouch, but the cord attached to the phone incidentally pulled the curtain back, exposing her naked body, but Lelouch kept his eyes in front. Did you say, ceasefire? Lelouch questioned, surprising Kallen realizing her mistake. Sounds like you keep dangerous company. Oh that was, she tried to think of an excuse. If she couldn't then she'd have to take the blade and kill him. But when she thought about that, the image of the little girl, Nunnally, entered her mind. She already lost her sight and legs, could she take away the girl's brother like Britannia took away hers? Let me guess, you're talking about a game. Something online. Lelouch faked guessed, and Kallen seemed to have bought it. Yeah, you got me. She said, feeling a great sense of relief as she let go of his wrist. 'Cause you know, I've been shut up in my house for so long. That's what I was warning you about. Lelouch told her. When I told you not to bring up Shinjuku before, seriously some guys will try to show you footage of what happened that day and it's pretty damn grim. He kept his back to her. By the way, you know I can see you, right? Kallen realized that the curtain was open, and her body was exposed. She gave a yelp as she quickly pulled it back and covered herself with her arms, her face about as red as her hair. Fortunately, Lelouch didn't see her. He may be an exiled prince wishing vengeance and destruction on his own nation, but he wasn't a pervert. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Later. He walked out, leaving Kallen alone. Though she was relieved that she wouldn't have to kill anyone, she couldn't help but feel embarrassed. I was wrong. Bumblebee kept his vehicle form in the school's parking lot as he replayed the recording over his radio. Glad to see you alive, Q-1. Well, he certainly knows how to think ahead. Bet he could give Soundwave a run for his money, he spoke to himself. Bumblebee, are you there? Ironhide's voice came in through the comms and it sounded urgent. Yeah, what's going? Patch into the media feed. Now, Ironhide exclaimed. They just released a statement on Clovis' death. Ashford Clubhouse. Kallen had changed into Lelouch's casual clothes, a black shirt with a dark red jacket along with a pair of dark gray pants. She walked alongside him in the hallway as he explained some of the duties she'll be doing now that she's part of the student council. The council doesn't require much actual work, I guess. He explained. Beyond occasional paperwork, we will sometimes plan school events. So you mean like the culture festival? Kallen asked. Yep, like that, Lelouch answered. Along with the cross-dresser ball, the absolute silence party and swimsuit day. What's up with that? Kallen questioned. Blame our president, Lelouch said in a playfully warning tone. You'll be spending a lot of time with Ashford's resident she-devil, hope you're ready. She-devil? Kallen questioned in surprise. Don't ask. The two walked back into the ballroom where the other members of the council, Nunnally included, were watching a news report on the television. Lelouch, it's awful, Nunnally exclaimed, despair evident in her voice. What is? Prince Clovis has been found dead. Millie told him. They're saying he was killed. Rivals added. Kallen looked with honest surprise, while Lelouch faked his, though he was a bit surprised that they were releasing the statement now. No doubt the Autobots were seeing the same thing right now. The Ark. All of Team Prime saw the news report on the holographic screen on the ship's bridge, save for Bumblebee as he remained at Ashford and listened to the statement via his radio. Prince Clovis has been taken from us. Margrave Jeremiah announced as most of the purebloods, including Valletta, stood by his side. He fought for peace and justice, against all the 11s. He died a martyr. Ironhide scoffed. Even in death this guy still goes for the theatrics. They finally released a statement. Ratchet said. Which would mean they likely have a scapegoat in place here as well. The other Autobots continued to watch. We must all bury our sorrow and carry on his will. Hate to tell ya Paul, but I ain't got sorrow to bury. Bulkhead exclaimed at the screen as an emergency broadcast came in. We interrupt this broadcast with breaking news. The man suspected as the murderer has been captured. NQ the scapegoat. So, who's the unlucky guy? Cliffjumper wondered. According to this report, the suspect is an honorary Brittanian. The image changed to reveal a squad of Brittanian soldiers dragging a young man of Japanese ethnicity. What the? Lelouch recognized him instantly. Private Suzaku Kururugi, a former 11 and honorary Brittanian. I repeat, Suzaku Kururugi arrested for murder. Lelouch could not believe this. Though he was happy that his friend was still alive, he was beyond shocked that he was accused of something that he did not do. And since the accusation was for the murder of a member of the imperial family, the death penalty was all but certain. The Autobots, the Ashford Student Council, and Japanese resistance groups weren't the only ones watching the broadcast. No, someone else was watching this with great interest. Megatron saw the broadcast via the massive window screen on Boad the Nemesis Bridge. He wasn't alone, alongside him were Starscream, Thundercracker, Skywarp, and Soundwave. I repeat, Suzaku Kururugi arrested for murder. Skywarp chuckled. Ah well, sucks to be him. Oh, and poor little Clovis. Starscream mocked as he laughed. I can't believe those humans actually buy into this drama. He continued to laugh. As the two Seekers continued to mock this, Thundercracker approached his master. Lord Megatron, how is Clovis' death important to us? He may have meant something to Britannia, but to us he was a puppet at the very bottom of the barrel. Clovis himself was insignificant, yes. Megatron confirmed. However, I do not believe that this Kururugi was truly responsible. This caught everyone's attention. Starscream had a feeling that he knew who Megatron was talking about. Master, you don't honestly believe the Autobots are responsible for this, do you? Even if they were alive, it's not in their character, especially for their leader. Perhaps not. Megatron noted as Soundwave typed on the front console of the bridge and the footage rewound to show Suzaku's face. But still, I do not believe that a measly human given the rank of 11 could have the means to assassinate a Brittanian prince. Someone else was responsible, even if it weren't the Autobots. Optimus is unlikely to stand by and allow someone innocent to take the fall for something like this. If Optimus were alive, wouldn't it mean that he stood by and watched as Britannia took over Japan and killed other, innocent, humans? Skywarp questioned with air quotes. Regardless, I want to watch as this situation proceeds. Megatron said. But Master, Starscream was about to protest when the leader of the Decepticons shot him a glare. Are you questioning my orders? The Seeker in question winced a bit before reluctantly bowing. No, Lord Megatron. We shall proceed as instructed. Good. He turned his attention back to the screen. Britannia has made their move, it's your turn now, Optimus. And this is the end of part 2 of this What If. I hope you guys like it. Do not forget to leave a comment down below and subscribe to the channel.